Welcome aboard, friends. You're now tuned into Super Harry. We're super excited to share today's story with you. What if Harry's DNA test showed 40% Kryptonian, 30% Asgardian, 30% wizard, and Dumbledore had been harvesting all three? If you enjoy what we do here, the best way to support us is by liking, commenting, and subscribing. We read every comment. Ready? Let's go. Chapter 1. The Shattered Mirror. Harry's head throbbed as he stared at the bubbling cauldron. Double potions with the Slytherins was brutal enough on a normal day, but after staying up half the night practicing defensive spells, his focus kept slipping. Mr. Potter, Snape's voice sliced through the dungeon classroom, perhaps you believe your blood is too precious to contribute to today's assignment. Students snickered as Harry looked down at his untouched silver knife and the shrivel fig waiting to be cut. Across from him, Hermione gave a tiny head shake, a warning not to take Snape's bait. No, Professor, Harry muttered, picking up the knife. Snape loomed closer. The Hereditas potion requires precisely 3 drops of the brewer's blood. Even your celebrity status doesn't exempt you from proper ingredient preparation. Harry gritted his teeth. Fifth-year potions had taken a strange turn into magical genetics, and today's brew supposedly revealed one's magical lineage, something purebloods like Malfoy were practically salivating over. Yes, sir, Harry said, pressing the knife to his palm and making a small cut. As the first drop of blood hit the surface of his potion, something unexpected happened. Instead of sinking into the silvery liquid, it skittered across the surface like mercury, refusing to mix. The second drop joined the first, spinning rapidly. Potter, what did you do wrong now? Snape demanded, noticing the strange reaction. Nothing. I followed the instructions exactly. The third drop fell. The moment it touched the others, the potion flashed with blinding light, gold, blue, and crimson all at once. The cauldron shook violently. Harry lunged backward as the mixture erupted upward in a pillar of energy. Get back! Snape shouted, drawing his wand. Too late. The column of light exploded outward, washing over the classroom. Students dove under tables, but Harry couldn't move. The light seemed to pass through everyone else but wrapped around him like tendrils, sinking into his skin. Pain lanced through his body. His bones felt like they were being rewritten from the inside. His vision blurred, then sharpened to an impossible degree. Suddenly he could see the individual fibers in Snape's robes from across the room. His hearing amplified until the rapid heartbeats of every student thundered in his ears. Harry! Hermione's voice cut through the chaos as he collapsed to his knees. The stone floor cracked beneath his fingertips. Interesting, came a new voice from the doorway. Dumbledore stood there, his face uncharacteristically grim. Most interesting indeed. Harry tried to stand but stumbled as another wave of sensation overwhelmed him. He could feel the castle's magic pulsing around him like a living thing. Professor, what's happening to him? Ron asked, helping Harry up. Dumbledore didn't answer. Instead, he waved his wand, freezing the still erupting potion in midair. The suspended droplets formed a strange, triple helix pattern that glowed with 3 distinct colors. Class dismissed, Dumbledore announced. Professor Snape, please escort everyone out except Mr. Potter, Ms. Granger, and Mr. Weasley. Students scrambled to leave, whispering frantically. Malfoy shot Harry a suspicious glance before Snape herded him through the door. When they were gone, Dumbledore approached the frozen potion, studying it with alarming intensity. Sir, what's happening? Harry gasped, still adjusting to the sensory overload. The Hereditas potion is designed to reveal one's magical ancestry, Dumbledore said calmly. Yours appears to have revealed something unexpected. Hermione stepped closer to the suspended pattern. Those colors, they're separating into distinct genetic markers. But that's not possible with a standard Hereditas brew. Quite right, Ms. Granger. This reaction is unprecedented. Dumbledore waved his wand, capturing the pattern in a crystal vial. Harry, I believe we should continue this discussion in my office. Harry exchanged glances with Ron and Hermione. Something in Dumbledore's too casual tone set off warning bells. I'd rather they come with me, sir, Harry said, surprised by the new resonance in his voice. Dumbledore's eyes narrowed slightly. Very well. The walk to Dumbledore's office was excruciating. Every step sent Harry's newly enhanced senses into overdrive. The portraits whispered as they passed. He could hear conversations from classrooms 3 floors away. When a shaft of sunlight hit him through a window, he felt energy surge through his cells like a battery charging. Harry, your eyes, Hermione whispered. They're glowing. He caught his reflection in a suit of armor. His green eyes now shimmered with an internal light. Inside the headmaster's office, Dumbledore placed the crystal vial on his desk and tapped it with his wand. The triple helix expanded into the air, rotating slowly. Do you know what this is, Harry? Dumbledore asked. It's my blood. But something's wrong with it. Not wrong. Simply different. Dumbledore pointed to the strands. Your DNA has 3 distinct signatures. This is unprecedented. Hermione gasped. But humans only have one DNA pattern. Precisely, Ms. Granger. Which leads us to an inescapable conclusion. Dumbledore's face remained unnervingly calm. Harry is not entirely human. The room went silent. That's mental, Ron finally said. Harry's parents were James and Lily Potter. Everyone knows that. Were they? Dumbledore murmured, more to himself than to them. Harry felt something dangerous rising inside him. What exactly are you saying, Professor? Dumbledore sighed. The Hereditas potion is revealing 3 distinct genetic patterns in your blood. Approximately 40% of one type, and 30% each of 2 others. And what types would those be? Harry asked, his voice deceptively quiet. Instead of answering, Dumbledore reached for an ancient book on his shelf. I believe we need to perform one more test to be certain. Harry moved faster than he thought possible, his hand clamping around Dumbledore's wrist. No more tests until you tell me what you already know. The headmaster's eyes widened slightly at Harry's speed, and the strength in his grip. Harry, Dumbledore said carefully, please release me. Answer me first. Ron and Hermione exchanged alarmed glances. Harry had never spoken to Dumbledore this way. Very well. Dumbledore extracted his arm from Harry's grip. Based on the preliminary results, your genetic makeup includes wizard DNA, yes. But also, something not of this world. Not even of this dimension. That's impossible, Hermione said. Is it? Dumbledore walked to a cabinet and removed a strange device that looked like a silver microscope. The wizarding world has long known of other realms and dimensions. What we call the magic is merely our ability to tap into these alternate energies. He placed a drop of Harry's blood from the vial onto a crystal slide and peered through the device. As I suspected, he muttered. Kryptonian markers. And Asgardian. How fascinating. What? Harry, Ron, and Hermione asked simultaneously. Your blood, Harry, contains genetic material from 3 distinct sources. Approximately 30% wizard, likely from Lily. But also 40% Kryptonian and 30% Asgardian. Those are comic book characters. Harry protested. Dumbledore chuckled. My dear boy, where do you think Muggle storytellers get their inspirations? Both Krypton and Asgard exist, not in this dimension, but adjacent to ours. There have been visitors throughout history. Harry's mind raced. But my parents, James and Lily, raised you, yes. They loved you as their own. But your biology tells a different story. So what are you saying? Harry demanded. That I'm some kind of alien hybrid? The truth is more complicated. Dumbledore hesitated. And perhaps more troubling. These genetic patterns aren't random. They've been deliberately combined. The temperature in the room seemed to drop. Combined by who? Hermione asked, though her expression suggested she already feared the answer. Dumbledore didn't respond immediately. In that silence, Harry noticed something he'd overlooked before, a strange anticipation in the headmaster's eyes, as if he'd been waiting for this moment. "You," Harry whispered. "You knew this would happen." Dumbledore sighed. "Not today specifically. But yes, I've been monitoring your development since birth." The Hereditas potion simply accelerated a process that was already underway. What process? Harry's voice had gone dangerously quiet. The awakening of your full genetic potential. You see, Harry, you are the culmination of a project centuries in the making. What we call the convergence. Ron stood up, fists clenched. You experimented on him? Not just on Harry, Dumbledore replied. The Potter line has been part of this work for generations. As have several others. Harry felt sick. You're saying my entire family was instrumental in creating something extraordinary, Dumbledore finished. A being capable of channeling the powers of multiple realities. Why? Hermione demanded. Because there are threats coming that no single world can withstand, Dumbledore said. Threats that require a champion with abilities beyond any single species. Harry's enhanced hearing caught the slight acceleration in Dumbledore's heartbeat. He was hiding something. You're lying, Harry said flatly. Dumbledore's eyes narrowed. Your Kryptonian senses are developing faster than anticipated. Stop talking about me like I'm your science experiment. Harry shouted. The windows rattled with the force of his voice. Control yourself, Harry, Dumbledore warned, drawing his wand casually. Your emotions will trigger further manifestations. We need to proceed carefully. We don't need to do anything, Harry snapped. You've been manipulating my entire life, my entire family. For the greater good, Dumbledore insisted. The powers you will develop, Harry didn't let him finish. What did you do to my parents? My real parents? A heavy silence fell. Lily was your mother, Dumbledore finally said. That much is true. But she volunteered for enhancements during her pregnancy. Volunteered? Harry's voice cracked. She knew the importance of the convergence. James did as well. And who were the donors of my other DNA? Hermione asked, her scientific mind putting pieces together despite her horror. Dumbledore walked to a hidden compartment behind Fawkes' perch. Perhaps it's time you understood the full scope of what we've been working toward. He removed a small crystal cube that pulsed with blue light. This contains a fragment of Kryptonian consciousness, what they call a genetic codex. Salvaged from a scout ship that crashed in Norway in 1487. Harry stared at the crystal. Something within him resonated with it. And this, Dumbledore continued, opening another compartment to reveal a small wooden box carved with strange runes, contains a vial of Asgardian blood, willingly given during the last convergence of the 9 realms. You harvested alien DNA for centuries, Hermione whispered. And combined it with wizard bloodlines. Many attempts failed, Dumbledore admitted. The energies were too incompatible. But your mother's unique magical signature finally provided the stability needed. So I'm just an experiment. Harry felt something breaking inside him. You are the answer, Harry. The one who can. A sharp crack interrupted him as the crystal cube suddenly glowed brighter, responding to Harry's proximity. A voice emerged from it, speaking an alien language that Harry somehow understood. Genetic match confirmed. House of L recognized. At the same moment, the wooden box sprung open, the vial inside glowing with golden light. Extraordinary, Dumbledore breathed. They recognize you. Harry backed away. I don't want any part of this. I'm afraid it's too late for that, Dumbledore said, his grandfatherly facade slipping. The process is already accelerating. You need supervision and training to become your weapon. Harry cut in. To fulfill your purpose, Dumbledore corrected. The threat's gathering beyond our dimension, no. Harry's voice resonated with new power. You don't get to decide my purpose. He turned to Ron and Hermione, who looked shocked but stood firmly at his side. We're leaving, Harry said. I can't allow that. Dumbledore raised his wand. Not until you understand what's at stake. What happened next shocked everyone. Harry moved with impossible speed, crossing the room before Dumbledore could cast a spell. He grabbed the headmaster's wand hand, not hard enough to hurt him, but with enough strength to immobilize it. Harry, Dumbledore warned, you don't know what you're doing. I know exactly what I'm doing, Harry replied. I'm done being your pawn. With his free hand, Harry grabbed both the crystal cube and the vial of Asgardian blood. The moment he touched them, energy surged through him. Images flashed in his mind, a crystal spire city under a red sun, golden halls and a rainbow bridge, and something darker, shadowy figures discussing the Convergence Project across centuries, with Dumbledore always at the center. Harry staggered back, his eyes now blazing with light. You've been doing this for centuries, he gasped. You're not just Dumbledore. That's enough. Dumbledore waved his free hand, and the office door slammed shut, magic sealing it. Ron pulled out his wand. Let us go. I'm sorry, but Harry must remain here while we stabilize his condition. His powers are emerging too rapidly. Harry felt something new stirring inside him, not just strength and speed, but something else. Energy crackled at his fingertips. I said we're leaving. Harry closed his eyes, concentrating on the energy building within him. When he opened them again, the temperature in the room plummeted. Ice crystals formed on the windows. Fascinating, Dumbledore murmured. Jotunheim influence as well. The Asgardian DNA must have. Harry didn't let him finish. With a gesture, he sent a blast of cold air at the door, freezing the lock solid. Ron smashed it with a well-aimed kick, shattering it. Go! Harry shouted. Hermione grabbed Ron's arm and rushed through the doorway. Harry backed toward it, keeping his eyes on Dumbledore. Harry, please, the headmaster urged. You're too valuable to the Convergence to risk untrained exposure. That's all I am to you, isn't it? An asset? Dumbledore's face hardened. You are the culmination of work spanning 1,000 years. The perfect hybrid who can wield the powers of 3 realities. I'm a person, Harry shot back. Not your experiment. He felt another surge of power. The castle itself seemed to be responding to his emotions, stones groaning as though alive. You cannot run from your destiny, Dumbledore called as Harry reached the doorway. Others will come for you once they sense your awakening. Let them come, Harry replied. At least they'll be honest about what they want. He stepped through the doorway and sealed it with another blast of cold energy, buying them precious seconds. Harry, your eyes. Hermione gasped as they raced down the spiral staircase. They're glowing blue. Harry had no time to process this as they sprinted through corridors, ducking into a hidden passage behind a tapestry of trolls learning ballet. We need to get out of the castle, Harry panted, surprised he wasn't even winded despite their pace. Dumbledore will have the whole staff looking for us any minute. Where can we go? Ron asked. If what he said is true, nowhere's safe. Grimmauld Place, Harry decided. It's still under the Fidelius charm. We can regroup there and figure out what to do. Harry. Hermione stopped running, staring at him with wide eyes. You're floating. He looked down. His feet hovered 2 inches above the stone floor. Bloody hell, Ron whispered. Harry concentrated, and his feet touched down again. We don't have time to figure this out now. We need to move. They emerged from the passage on the third floor, only to find Professor McGonagall rounding the corner. "Potter! The headmaster is looking for you," she called, her expression stern. "Professor, I can't talk now," Harry replied, edging backward. McGonagall drew her wand. "I'm afraid I must insist. There's been some kind of incident in the potions classroom, and," she stopped abruptly, noticing Harry's glowing eyes and the frost forming at his fingertips. "What in Merlin's name?" "I'm sorry, Professor," Harry said, genuinely meaning it. Before she could respond, he concentrated on the energy building inside him and released it in a controlled burst, not enough to hurt her, but enough to send a wave of cold air that froze her robes to the floor. "Potter," she spluttered, shocked more than angry. "Tell Dumbledore I know what he's done," Harry called as they ran past her. "And I'm not going to be his weapon." They raced down staircases, dodging students who gaped at Harry's glowing eyes and the trail of frost he left behind. Near the entrance hall, they encountered Filch, who took one look at Harry and shrieked in terror. Outside, Harry directed as they burst through the main doors into the afternoon sunlight. The moment the sun touched his skin, Harry felt another surge of energy. His whole body seemed to drink in the solar radiation, cells buzzing with power. "How do we get to London?" Ron panted as they sprinted across the grounds. Harry looked toward the Forbidden Forest, an idea forming. "Thestrals. They can take us to the edge of Hogwarts' boundaries, and then we can apparate." "But none of us can apparate yet," Hermione protested. "I think." Harry hesitated, new knowledge suddenly filling his mind. "I think I can." They veered toward Hagrid's hut, hoping to cut through to the forest beyond, when a massive figure stepped into their path. "Harry?" Hagrid looked confused. "Dumbledore's just sent word you're to come to his office straight away. Blimey, what's happened to your eyes?" "Can't explain now, Hagrid," Harry said, slowing down. He couldn't bear to hurt his first friend. "Please, just let us pass." Hagrid's kind face creased with worry. "Yeah, look like you're in trouble." "What's going on?" "Dumbledore's been lying to me, to everyone," Harry said quickly. "He's been experimenting on my family for generations. I need to get away and figure things out." Hagrid's eyes widened. For a moment, Harry feared the groundskeeper's loyalty to Dumbledore would win out. Then, surprisingly, Hagrid nodded. "Use the back path through me pumpkin patch," he said quietly. "It'll take ya to the forest quicker." "And Harry?" He hesitated. "Be careful. Whatever's happening to ya looks powerful." "Thanks, Hagrid," Harry said, relief washing through him. "I'll explain everything when I can." They skirted around Hagrid's hut and plunged into the forest beyond. Harry led them to the clearing where he knew the Thestrals gathered, his new senses easily picking up the creature's unique heartbeats. There, he pointed to what appeared to be empty air to Ron. "I still can't see them," Ron complained. "I can," Hermione said softly. "After the Department of Mysteries." Harry nodded grimly. They'd all seen too much death now. He approached the nearest Thestral, which snorted and backed away, clearly sensing something different about him. "It's okay," Harry said, extending his hand slowly. "We need your help." The creature's white eyes studied him warily before stepping forward, accepting his touch. Two others approached for Ron and Hermione. "We need to get beyond the school boundaries," Harry told the Thestral, not knowing if it understood but hoping it would sense his urgency. As they mounted, a voice rang out from the edge of the clearing. "Harry Potter." They turned to see a tall woman with golden armor partially concealed beneath a red cloak. Her blonde hair was braided intricately, and a strange hammer hung at her belt. Most striking were her eyes, ancient and wise beyond her apparent years. "Who are you?" Harry called, positioning himself protectively in front of his friends. "I am Thora Odin's daughter of Asgard," she replied, her voice carrying a strange accent. "The Bifrost detected your awakening." "Asgard?" Ron whispered. Like what Dumbledore said. Harry tensed, ready to fight if necessary. What do you want from me? Thora studied him carefully. That remains to be seen. Your existence is unexpected. A mortal with the blood of Asgard and Krypton. The All-Father will want answers. Join the club, Harry muttered. Look, I don't know what's happening to me, but I need to get away from Hogwarts before Dumbledore, the one called Dumbledore, Thora interrupted. He is the architect of this abomination. Harry blinked. You didn't know. Heimdall has observed strange energies emanating from this school for centuries, but the cause was hidden even from his sight. Thora's hand moved to her hammer. If forbidden blood magic has been performed. A crack of apparition interrupted them. Dumbledore stood at the edge of the clearing, his usually twinkling eyes now hard as diamonds. Lady Thora, he greeted coolly. Asgard's response time has improved since our last encounter. Albus Dumbledore, she replied with equal coldness. You dare tamper with the bloodlines of the 9 realms? I do what must be done to prepare for what comes, Dumbledore replied. His gaze shifted to Harry. Harry, please come with me. Your condition needs stabilizing. My condition? Harry laughed bitterly. You mean the genetic tampering you've been doing for centuries? Thora's eyes widened. Centuries? She turned to Dumbledore. What is he talking about, wizard? Matters beyond your understanding, Dumbledore replied dismissively. The Convergence Project is essential for, a new voice interrupted, seeming to come from everywhere at once. Kryptonian genetic material detected. The air shimmered, and a figure materialized beside them, a man in a form-fitting blue suit with strange symbols emblazoned across the chest. His face was eerily similar to Harry's, though older and more severe. Who in Merlin's name are you? Ron blurted. I am the consciousness of the House of El, the figure stated. A projection activated by the awakening of Kryptonian DNA. His eyes fixed on Harry. You carry the blood of Krypton, yet you are not fully of our kind. He carries the blood of Asgard as well, Thora growled. A violation of cosmic law. The Kryptonian projection turned to Dumbledore. You have tampered with the genetic codex of the House of El. Explain yourself. Dumbledore straightened, suddenly looking less like a school headmaster and more like something ancient and dangerous. The convergence approaches, he said simply. The barriers between dimensions grow thin. We need a guardian who can harness the powers of multiple realities. You speak of the prophecy, the Kryptonian said. What prophecy? Harry demanded. Thora's expression darkened. The prophecy of 3 worlds. It is forbidden knowledge on Asgard. Because your father fears its implications, Dumbledore countered. Just as the Council of Krypton feared what Jor-El discovered. The Kryptonian projection flickered. How do you know of Jor-El's work? I know many things, Dumbledore said cryptically. He turned to Harry. Including how essential you are to what comes next. Please, Harry, come with me before your powers destabilize further. Harry felt the energy inside him building to dangerous levels. The ground beneath his feet cracked as conflicting forces surged through him, icy cold from his Asgardian side, solar energy from his Kryptonian heritage, and raw magic from his wizard blood. Stay back, he warned as frost spread from one hand while the other glowed with heat. All of you. The Thestral beside him whinnied nervously. Your genetic structure is unstable, the Kryptonian projection warned. Without proper guidance, the conflicting energies will tear you apart. Then help me without trying to control me, Harry shot back. He turned to his friends. Get on the Thestrals. We're leaving. Hermione and Ron quickly mounted their creatures. Harry backed toward his, keeping his eyes on the 3 powerful beings watching him. Harry, Dumbledore tried once more, you don't understand what's at stake. Then maybe you should have told me the truth from the beginning, Harry replied. He swung onto the Thestral's back. Instead of treating me like a science experiment. The boy speaks wisdom, Thora said unexpectedly. Secrets and manipulation are poor foundations for trust. Says the daughter of the god of lies, Dumbledore retorted. Thora's hammer hummed with power as she gripped it tighter. Careful, wizard. My father may employ deception, but he does not tamper with the very essence of living beings. Your realm faces extinction if the convergence is not managed, Dumbledore warned. As does Krypton's remnants, and this world too. The Kryptonian projection studied Harry. The boy must come with me. Kryptonian heritage takes precedence. He bears the blood of Asgard, Thora countered. Odin's court has jurisdiction. He stays here, Dumbledore insisted, where he belongs. Harry had heard enough. He concentrated on the swirling energies inside him, remembering how he'd accidentally blown up Aunt Marge years ago. This time, he directed the power outward deliberately. A concussive wave of mixed energies, magic, cold, and solar power, erupted from him in all directions. The blast knocked the three figures back, giving Harry the opening he needed. Go, he shouted, and the Thestrals launched into the air. As they rose above the treetops, Harry looked back to see Dumbledore already recovering, his wand raised. A jet of red light shot toward them, but something unexpected happened. Harry instinctively raised his hand, and a shimmering shield of energy deflected the spell. Bloody hell! Ron shouted from his Thestral. How did you do that? I don't know. Harry called back, equally shocked. Below them, Thora was spinning her hammer, preparing to launch herself into the sky. The Kryptonian projection had vanished, but Harry somehow knew he wasn't gone, merely regrouping. We need to move faster. Hermione urged. Harry leaned forward, whispering to his Thestral. The creature seemed to understand his urgency, beating its leathery wings harder as they soared toward the edge of Hogwarts' protective boundaries. Behind them, a crack of thunder announced Thora taking to the air, her hammer pulling her skyward. She's gaining on us. Ron shouted. Harry looked back to see the Asgardian warrior rapidly closing the distance, her red cape billowing behind her. Almost at the boundary. Hermione called, pointing ahead where the magical protections of Hogwarts ended. Harry felt the exact moment they crossed the threshold, the castle's ancient magic no longer pressing against his new senses. He pulled his Thestral to a halt, hovering in midair. What are you doing? Ron yelled. Get behind me. Harry positioned himself between his friends and the approaching Asgardian. Thora stopped a few yards away, hammer ready. You cannot run from who you are, child of three realms. I'm not running from who I am, Harry replied. I'm running from people trying to control me. A silent understanding passed between them. For a moment, Harry thought he saw approval in her ancient eyes. Where will you go? She asked. Somewhere to figure this out on my terms. Thora nodded slowly. The convergence comes regardless of your wishes. You will need to master your gifts before it arrives. Then help me without trying to own me, Harry challenged. A faint smile crossed the Asgardian's face. Perhaps that is possible. But others will not be so reasonable. Dumbledore's meddling has drawn attention across the realms. I'll deal with that when it comes. Thora studied him a moment longer. Very well. I will give you time. But know this, Asgard will be watching. With that, she spun her hammer and launched in another direction, disappearing into the clouds. Harry turned to his friends, who stared at him with a mixture of awe and concern. What now? Ron asked. Harry took a deep breath, feeling the competing energies still swirling inside him. Grimmauld Place. We need somewhere safe to figure this out. Can you really apparate us? Hermione asked skeptically. I think so. It's like I suddenly know things I didn't before. Harry extended his hands to his friends. Do you trust me? They exchanged glances, then each took one of his hands. Always, Ron said firmly. Just don't splinch us, Hermione added with nervous humor. Harry concentrated on number 12, Grimmauld Place. But instead of the squeezing sensation of normal apparition, he felt something new, as if he were bending space rather than pushing through it. A flash of blue light surrounded them, and the world blurred. When it solidified again, they stood on the front steps of the ancient Black family home. That wasn't apparition, Hermione gasped. That was Kryptonian phantom drive technology, Harry said automatically, then looked confused. How did I know that? Mate, your eyes are still glowing, Ron pointed out. Harry blinked, trying to calm the energy surging through him. Let's get inside before someone sees us. As they entered the dusty hallway of Grimmauld Place, Harry felt the competing forces inside him reaching a critical point. Cold sweat broke out on his forehead as his veins glowed with blue, gold, and crimson light. Harry. Hermione's voice sounded distant. He stumbled, catching himself against the wall. The wooden paneling cracked under his grip. Something's happening, he managed. The last thing he saw before consciousness left him was Ron and Hermione rushing to catch him as he fell, their faces twisted with concern. And somewhere deep in his mind, 3 distinct voices began to speak. The House of El welcomes its son. Asgard acknowledges the child of 2 realms. The convergence approaches. The 3 shall become one. The world went black. Harry dreamed of 3 worlds. A crystal city beneath a red sun, where science had reached its zenith and people moved with subtle power. A golden realm of impossible beauty, where warriors feasted in great halls and rainbow light connected the stars. A hidden society of wizards and witches, drawing power from the spaces between dimensions. In his dream, these worlds collided at a single point, himself. He saw Dumbledore through the centuries, wearing different faces but always the same eyes, collecting blood samples, manipulating bloodlines, all working toward a single goal, the convergence. He saw a threat looming beyond reality, a darkness between dimensions that hungered for all worlds. He saw himself standing at the center of a cosmic storm, power from 3 realities flowing through him as barriers between worlds crumbled. Harry. The voice pulled him back to consciousness. He opened his eyes to find Hermione leaning over him, concern etched on her face. Thank goodness, she breathed. You've been out for hours. Harry sat up slowly, noticing he was on a bed in one of Grimmauld Place's spare rooms. The curtains were drawn, but he could see perfectly in the darkness, another new ability. How do you feel? Ron asked from the doorway. Different. Harry flexed his fingers, noticing the energy that had been chaotically surging through him now flowed more smoothly. More stable. Your eyes stopped glowing, Hermione observed. But they're more green than before. Almost luminous. Harry swung his legs over the side of the bed. I saw things while I was unconscious. Memories that aren't mine. Knowledge I shouldn't have. From your other DNA? Ron asked awkwardly. I think so. Harry stood, surprised at how strong he felt. It's like parts of me that were dormant are waking up. Hermione bit her lip. Harry, while you were unconscious, I found something in the Black Library. A book about cross-dimensional entities. It mentioned the convergence. What did it say? Not much. Just that it's a cosmic event that occurs every few thousand years when the barriers between realities thin. But there was a reference to something called the Convergence Project, a wizarding initiative to create beings who could exist in multiple realities simultaneously. Harry's jaw tightened. Dumbledore's project. It gets worse, Ron added. Dad sent his Patronus while you were out. The ministry's been alerted about an incident at Hogwarts. They're sending Aurors to find you. Great, Harry muttered. So now I'm a fugitive too. We both know Fudge would love an excuse to bring you in, Hermione said grimly. Especially if Dumbledore's painting you as dangerous. Harry paced the room, his mind racing. We need more information. About Krypton, about Asgard, and about this convergence. The Black Library might have more, Hermione suggested. And maybe. A sudden crack interrupted her as Kreacher appeared in the middle of the room. The half-blood returns to my mistress's house, the house elf grumbled. Then he looked at Harry more closely, his bulbous eyes widening. But the half-blood is not as he was. Kreacher senses great power. Different blood. Harry knelt to the elf's level. Kreacher, do you know anything about the convergence? The elf's ears flattened against his head. Kreacher knows what all house elves know. The convergence is the ending and beginning. When the three great powers meet. What three powers? Harry pressed. The Star Travelers, the Realm Walkers, and the Gap Weavers, Kreacher replied cryptically. Kryptonians, Asgardians, and Wizards, Hermione translated. That has to be it. Kreacher nodded reluctantly. The ancient black texts speak of it. The Master Phineas knew of such things. Harry exchanged glances with his friends. Phineas Nigellus Black. The former headmaster of Hogwarts. He worked with Dumbledore, Hermione realized. If Dumbledore has been pursuing this project for centuries. A creaking sound from downstairs interrupted them. Someone's here, Harry whispered, his enhanced hearing picking up quiet footsteps. Ron drew his wand. Could be the Order. Or Ministry. Or someone else entirely, Harry added, remembering Thora and the Kryptonian projection. Stay here. Before they could protest, Harry moved with his new speed, reaching the top of the stairs in a blink. He peered down into the darkened hallway below, his enhanced vision easily penetrating the shadows. A tall figure stood in the entrance hall, examining the troll-egg umbrella stand with apparent amusement. I know you're there, Harry Potter, the visitor called without looking up. Or should I say, Kal-El of Krypton? Or perhaps Harkin Thorson of Asgard? Harry tensed. Who are you? The figure finally looked up, revealing a face that seemed to shift subtly, as if unable to decide on a single appearance. I have many names, the visitor replied. But you may call me the Collector. And you, my three-blooded friend, are the most interesting specimen I've encountered in millennia. Harry felt a chill that had nothing to do with his Asgardian DNA. What do you want? He demanded. The Collector smiled, revealing too many teeth. Why, to add you to my collection, of course. A being of three realities. You're quite literally one of a kind. Behind Harry, Ron and Hermione had crept onto the landing, wands drawn. Harry, Hermione whispered, I don't think he's human. Very perceptive, young witch, the Collector called up. I am as far beyond humans as your friend is beyond you. Though in very different ways. Harry felt power building inside him again, not chaotic this time, but focused. I'm not going anywhere with you. Oh, I think you will. The Collector's form shimmered, and suddenly he stood directly in front of Harry, moving faster than even Harry's enhanced senses could track. The convergence approaches, and you are its catalyst. Dumbledore may have created you, but he doesn't understand what he's done. Harry backed away, pushing his friends behind him protectively. What do you mean? The old wizard believes he's preparing for a threat, the Collector said with a dismissive wave. But he's actually creating it. You, Harry Potter, are the key that will unlock the door between dimensions. And I intend to be there when it opens. With startling speed, he reached for Harry's face. Harry reacted instinctively, a blast of cold energy erupting from his hands. The Collector dodged with inhuman grace, the freezing beam hitting the wall instead, covering it with frost. Impressive, the Collector purred. Your Asgardian abilities are developing nicely. But what of your Kryptonian side? Harry concentrated, remembering the solar energy he'd felt earlier. His eyes burned with sudden heat. Get down! He shouted to Ron and Hermione as twin beams of red energy shot from his eyes. The Collector raised a hand, somehow absorbing the heat vision into his palm. Yes. Magnificent. So much potential. Stupefy. Ron and Hermione shouted in unison, their spells hitting the Collector squarely in the chest. He merely laughed. Magic. How quaint. Harry didn't wait for him to recover. With new instincts guiding him, he lunged forward with Kryptonian speed, landing a punch that should have shattered concrete. The Collector caught his fist effortlessly. You're strong, three-blood. But untrained. Reckless. He twisted Harry's arm painfully. Come quietly, and I promise to take your friends too. Keep you together in my collection. Go to hell, Harry snarled, his free hand grabbing the Collector's wrist. Something unexpected happened. Where they touched, energy sparked, not from Harry, but from the contact itself. The Collector's eyes widened in surprise. The convergence energy is already manifesting in you, he whispered. Fascinating. Harry felt it too, a strange resonance between them, as if reality itself vibrated at their point of contact. A deafening crack of thunder interrupted the moment as the front door blasted open. Thora stood in the doorway, hammer raised and crackling with lightning. Release him, Collector, she commanded. He is under Asgard's protection. The Collector smiled thinly. Asgard has no claim here. The three-blood belongs in my collection. He belongs to himself, came another voice as the Kryptonian projection materialized beside Thora. Though still transparent, his form seemed more solid than before. Well, the Collector laughed. Representatives from two realms, fighting over the hybrid. How predictable. He released Harry, stepping back. But neither of you understand what he truly is. What Dumbledore has created. Then enlighten us, the Kryptonian projection challenged. The Collector's eyes gleamed. The convergence isn't just a thinning of barriers between realities. It's a complete collapse, and rebirth. And this boy. He gestured to Harry. He's the focal point around which it will happen. Impossible, Thora growled. No single being could channel such power. Unless that being were specifically engineered to do so, the Collector countered. Blood of three realities, carefully combined through generations of selective breeding. Harry felt sick. You're saying Dumbledore engineered my entire family line for this? Oh, he's done far more than that, the Collector replied. He's been manipulating bloodlines across multiple dimensions for centuries. You're simply his masterpiece. You lie, the Kryptonian projection stated flatly. No human could access Kryptonian genetic material without authorization from the Science Council. The Collector laughed. And who do you think infiltrated your precious council? Manipulated your genetic codex? Planted the seeds for Krypton's eventual destruction? A horrified silence fell. Dumbledore caused Krypton's destruction. Harry whispered. Not directly, the Collector clarified. But he ensured that when it happened, certain genetic materials would find their way to Earth. Just as he ensured Asgardian blood would be available when needed. Thora's knuckles whitened around her hammer's handle. If this is true, Dumbledore has committed crimes against multiple realities. All for the convergence, the Collector agreed. A project spanning millennia. Harry's mind reeled with implications. But why? What happens during this convergence? Reality rewrites itself, the Kryptonian projection explained reluctantly. All possible timelines collapse into a single point before expanding again into a new configuration. And whoever controls that point, the Collector added, controls how reality reforms. Harry looked between the three powerful entities. And Dumbledore wants to control it through me. As do I, the Collector admitted shamelessly. As does every power in every dimension. You are the key, Harry Potter. The three-blood catalyst. I never asked for this, Harry said, anger rising. Few chosen ones do, the Collector replied with mock sympathy. Thora stepped forward, hammer ready. Enough talk. The boy comes with me to Asgard for his protection. He requires Kryptonian guidance, the projection countered. He requires neither, the collector argued. He requires proper collection and preservation. As they argued, Harry exchanged glances with Ron and Hermione. His friends nodded slightly, understanding his unspoken plan. While the three beings were distracted, Harry concentrated on that strange space-bending ability he'd used earlier. With a surge of power, he grabbed his friend's hands and, they vanished in a flash of blue light, leaving the three entities staring at empty space. "Clever boy," the collector murmured appreciatively. "Where did they go?" Thora demanded. The Kryptonian projection's eyes glowed as he scanned dimensions. "He's accessed Phantom Zone technology without training. Impressive, and dangerous. The convergence approaches faster than anticipated," the collector observed. "The boy's powers are accelerating. Find him, before Dumbledore does." They materialized in a forest clearing, stumbling slightly as reality solidified around them. "Bloody hell," Ron gasped. "What was that?" "I think I just bent space," Harry replied, equally shocked at what he'd done. Hermione looked around frantically. "Where are we?" "Forest of Dean," Harry answered automatically. "My Kryptonian DNA seems to have an internal navigation system." "This is mental," Ron muttered, leaning against a tree. "Completely mental. My best mate is part alien." "Despite everything," Harry laughed. "Yeah, it's a lot to process." Hermione, ever practical, was already thinking ahead. "We need a plan. If what the collector said is true, everyone's going to be looking for you." Harry nodded grimly. "Dumbledore, the Ministry, Asgardians, Kryptonians, and whatever the collector is. Plus you know who," Ron added helpfully. "Let's not forget him." "Actually." Harry frowned. "The collector didn't mention Voldemort at all. Don't you think that's strange? If the convergence is this huge cosmic event, wouldn't Voldemort be interested too? Unless..." Hermione's eyes widened. "Unless he doesn't know about it. Or he's just another one of Dumbledore's pawns," Harry finished. "Another piece in this game he's been playing for centuries." The three friends fell silent, contemplating the implications. "So what do we do now?" Ron finally asked. Harry looked up at the stars, newly visible through the canopy as night fell. Somewhere up there were Krypton's remains and Asgard's realm. Somewhere were answers. "We need to understand what I am," he said quietly. "What these powers are, and how to control them. And we need to learn the truth about the convergence." He turned to his friends. "But first, we need somewhere safer than this." "Shell Cottage?" Ron suggested. "Bill and Fleur would help us." "Too obvious," Hermione countered. "The Order will check there." Harry concentrated, accessing that strange new knowledge flowing through him. "I have an idea. The Kryptonian in my head keeps showing me a place. I think there might be a scout ship. Something that crashed here centuries ago." "The one Dumbledore mentioned?" Hermione asked. Harry nodded. "If we can find it, maybe we can get answers about what I am. About all of this." "And where is this ship supposed to be?" Ron asked. "Antarctica," Harry replied, grimacing. "Buried under ice." "Oh, brilliant," Ron groaned. "From bad to worse." Hermione's brow furrowed. "Harry, if your powers keep developing, do you think you could fly us there?" Harry looked at his hands, feeling the energy thrumming beneath his skin. "Maybe. But I don't want to risk dropping you both in the ocean if I can't manage it." "There might be another way," she said thoughtfully. "Your space-bending thing. If you could picture the location." Harry considered it. "Worth a try. But first, we need supplies. Food, warm clothes. We should contact someone trustworthy," Ron suggested. "Not my parents, they'd tell Dumbledore, but maybe A rustle in the trees interrupted him. All three whirled around, wands drawn. "Show yourself," Harry called, eyes starting to glow with heat vision. A figure stepped from the shadows, not Dumbledore or the Collector, but a familiar face. "Luna?" Hermione gasped. Luna Lovegood stood before them, looking exactly as dreamy and unconcerned as always. "Hello, Harry Potter," she said serenely. "Or should I call you Starborn now?" The three friends exchanged bewildered glances. "Luna, what are you doing here?" Harry asked cautiously. "How did you find us?" "The Nargles told me, of course." She tilted her head, studying him. "They've been very excited about you. They say you're vibrating with 3 frequencies simultaneously." "Luna," Hermione began carefully, "do you know about the convergence?" Luna's protuberant eyes widened slightly. "Oh yes. Daddy's been writing about it for years." No one believed him, of course. She looked directly at Harry. "But you know now, don't you? That you're the bridge between worlds." Harry felt a chill. "How do you know all this?" "My mother was researching dimensional barriers when she died," Luna replied matter-of-factly. "Her last experiment was about the convergence. She said a 3-blooded one would come." "Luna," Harry said slowly, "I think we need to talk to your father." Luna smiled dreamily. "That's why I'm here. He sent me to find you. He says it's time you learned the truth about the cosmic triad." "The what?" Ron blurted. "The cosmic triad," Luna repeated patiently. "The 3 bloodlines destined to merge at the convergence point." She extended her hand to Harry. "Will you come? There isn't much time." Harry hesitated, looking at Ron and Hermione. After everything that had happened, could they trust Luna? Could they trust anyone? "How do we know this isn't a trap?" Hermione asked bluntly. Luna didn't seem offended. "You don't. But Harry can see through me if he wants. His Kryptonian vision should tell him I'm not lying." Harry blinked, surprised. Then, acting on instinct, he focused his vision on Luna. His sight seemed to shift, penetrating beyond normal perception to see her heartbeat, steady and calm. No signs of deception. "She's telling the truth," he said. "At least, she believes she is." Luna smiled. "The rookery isn't far. We can be there by morning." Harry nodded slowly. "All right. Lead the way." As they followed Luna deeper into the forest, Harry couldn't shake the feeling that they were walking into yet another chapter of a story that had been written long before his birth, a cosmic tale spanning centuries and realities, with him at its center. Whatever the convergence was, whatever Dumbledore had been planning all this time, Harry was determined to write the ending himself. Chapter 2, Blood and Lightning. The Lovegood home looked exactly like Luna, whimsical, impossible, and seemingly unconcerned with the normal laws of physics. The cylindrical black tower rose from the hilltop like a giant chess rook, silhouetted against the dawn sky. "Home sweet home," Luna said dreamily as they approached. "Daddy will be so excited to meet you, Harry. He's been writing about the convergence since before I was born." Harry exchanged glances with Ron and Hermione. After trekking through the forest all night, they were exhausted, hungry, and increasingly skeptical about Luna's claims. But they'd run out of better options. "Luna, your dad writes about Crumplehorn Snorkax," Hermione said carefully. "How do we know his theories about the convergence are any more reliable?" Luna didn't seem offended. "The Snorkax are real too. You just haven't seen one yet." They reached the gate, decorated with bizarre wind chimes and what looked suspiciously like the eyeballs of various magical creatures. Luna," Ron began, "those aren't preserved eyes of magical seers," Luna confirmed casually. "They watch for dimensional anomalies." As if on cue, all the eyeballs swiveled toward Harry, their pupils dilating simultaneously. "Wicked," Ron muttered. Luna pushed open the gate. They recognize you, Harry. That's a good sign. Harry wasn't so sure, but he followed her up the winding path. His enhanced senses picked up strange energy patterns emanating from the house, not quite magical, but not entirely physical either. The front door swung open before they reached it. Xenophilius Lovegood stood in the doorway, wearing what appeared to be a silver hazmat suit covered in runes. "You found him!" Xenophilius exclaimed, his voice muffled by his bizarre attire. "The Tri-Blood. And his quantum entanglement is already advancing." "Hello, Mr. Lovegood," Harry said cautiously. "Nice, outfit." "Dimensional radiation protection," Xenophilius explained, tapping the silver material. "Your aura is leaking energy from 3 separate realities, my boy. Quite extraordinary. Come in, come in." The interior of the rookery was even stranger than its exterior. Every surface was covered with cosmic charts, runic diagrams, and newspaper clippings. Strange devices whirred and pulsed, responding to Harry's presence with increased activity. "They sense your resonance frequencies," Xenophilius explained, noting Harry's confusion. 3 distinct patterns where there should only be one. The wizard, the Kryptonian, and the Asgardian, all merged into a single vessel. "So you know what I am," Harry said, feeling a strange relief that someone might actually have answers. "Oh yes." Xenophilius removed his helmet, revealing his excited face. "I've been tracking the Convergence project for decades. Your mother's work was particularly brilliant." Harry froze. "My mother's work? What are you talking about?" Xenophilius blinked. "Lily Evans. Brilliant geneticist. She perfected the trilateral DNA splicing technique that made your existence possible." "My mother wasn't a geneticist," Harry protested. "She was a witch." "She was both," Xenophilius corrected. "One of Dumbledore's most promising researchers. Recruited straight out of Hogwarts for the Convergence project." Harry felt the floor tilt beneath him. "You're saying my mother helped create me as an experiment?" Hermione grabbed his arm supportively. "Harry, we don't know if, she did more than help," Xenophilius continued, oblivious to Harry's distress. "She volunteered to carry the first viable Tri-Blood embryo. Quite revolutionary. Previous attempts had all failed during gestation." The temperature in the room plummeted as Harry's Asgardian abilities responded to his emotions. Frost spread across the floor beneath his feet. "Harry," Hermione warned, "stay calm." "Fascinating." Xenophilius exclaimed, grabbing a nearby device that looked like a thermometer crossed with a kaleidoscope. "Your Jotun genetics are expressing Frost giant heritage within the Asgardian strand." Harry took a deep breath, trying to control the cold emanating from him. "Mr. Lovegood, are you saying my mother knew what I was? That she created me as part of Dumbledore's project?" Xenophilius nodded enthusiastically. "Of course. She was the breakthrough researcher who solved the compatibility issues between wizard, Kryptonian, and Asgardian DNA. Previous attempts had produced non-viable offspring or unstable mutations. Your mother discovered that certain magical bloodlines, particularly those descended from the Peverils, had natural compatibility with extraterrestrial genetic material." "The Peverils?" Hermione asked. "As in, the 3 brothers? From the Deathly Hallows story?" "Precisely." Xenophilius beamed at her. "Not just a children's tale, you see. The Peveril brothers encountered an interdimensional entity, what simple folk called death, but was actually a being from the space between realities. Their interaction left the Peveril bloodline forever changed." Harry's head was spinning. "And I'm descended from them?" "Through your father's line, yes. The Potter family is directly descended from Ignotus Peveril. That's why Dumbledore arranged the match between James Potter and Lily Evans. Perfect genetic compatibility." The casual way Xenophilius described his parents' relationship, as if it were a scientific pairing rather than a love match, made Harry's stomach churn. You're saying my parents didn't really love each other? He asked, his voice dangerously quiet. Xenophilius finally seemed to notice Harry's distress. Oh. No, no, my boy. They fell deeply in love during their work together. James was initially resistant to the Convergence project, thought it too dangerous, but Lily convinced him of its importance. Their love was real, even if the initial introduction was orchestrated. Harry wasn't sure if that made things better or worse. Mr. Lovegood, Hermione interjected, seeing Harry's struggle, what exactly is the Convergence? Everyone keeps mentioning it, but no one will explain it properly. Xenophilius brightened. Ah! The great cosmic alignment. Follow me. He led them up a spiral staircase to a circular room that appeared to be a combination of astronomy tower and mad scientist's laboratory. The ceiling was transparent, showing the morning sky above, while the walls were covered with complex diagrams and timelines. The Convergence, Xenophilius began, activating a strange projector in the center of the room, occurs when the boundaries between dimensions reach their thinnest point. Usually, this is a natural cosmic event happening every few thousand years. The projector displayed a holographic model of multiple spheres, different realities, gradually moving closer together. During the Convergence, energy and matter can pass between dimensions more easily. But Dumbledore discovered something extraordinary during the last Convergence cycle. With the right catalyst, one could potentially control how the dimensions realign when they separate again. Control reality itself, Harry muttered. Exactly. Xenophilius pointed excitedly at Harry. And the perfect catalyst would be a being who exists simultaneously in multiple realities, like you, Harry. Part wizard, part Kryptonian, part Asgardian, a living bridge between worlds. But why? Ron asked. Why go to all this trouble? What does Dumbledore want to change? Xenophilius's expression grew somber. That's the question, isn't it? Some say he wants to prevent a greater catastrophe. Others believe he seeks to rewrite reality according to his vision of the greater good. How do you know all this? Hermione asked suspiciously. If this project is so secret. My wife was part of the Convergence team, Xenophilius said quietly. Until she discovered something that frightened her, something about Dumbledore's true intentions. Her accident happened the very next day. Luna, who had been silently arranging tea things in the corner, looked up. Mother wasn't supposed to die. She was trying to warn everyone. A heavy silence fell over the room. What did she discover? Harry finally asked. Xenophilius shook his head. I don't know precisely. She only had time to tell me that Dumbledore wasn't what he seemed, that he'd been manipulating the Convergence for far longer than anyone realized. The projector image shifted, showing a timeline stretching back thousands of years, with key points marked along it. The Convergence has happened before, Xenophilius continued. And each time, there are records of a white-bearded wizard present. Different names, different faces, but always the same eyes. Harry remembered the collector's words about Dumbledore spanning centuries, manipulating bloodlines across dimensions. You're saying Dumbledore is immortal? Hermione asked incredulously. Or something that wears the form of Albus Dumbledore, Xenophilius replied. My wife believed he might be an interdimensional entity himself, one that takes different forms throughout history. Harry's mind reeled with implications. If true, everything he thought he knew about Dumbledore, about his own life, was a lie. Mr. Lovegood, he said slowly, you mentioned other attempts. Other experiments like me. Xenophilius nodded grimly. Yes. Dozens over the centuries. Most failed early in development. A few lived briefly, but their conflicting genetic material tore them apart. You are the first stable tri-blood in recorded history. Are there others still alive? Harry pressed. Other experiments? Perhaps. There were rumors of partial successes, beings with 2 bloodlines instead of 3. Not powerful enough to serve as the catalyst for the Convergence, but still remarkable. Hybrids, Hermione murmured. And Dumbledore's been doing this for centuries? Ron asked, horrified. Creating and discarding people like failed potions? In pursuit of the convergence, yes, Xenophilius confirmed. The question is why? Harry stared at the holographic display, watching the dimensions slowly converging. When is it supposed to happen? This convergence? The astronomical alignment peaks in 1 week, Xenophilius said, pointing to a date on the projection. But the actual dimensional thinning has already begun. That's why your powers are manifesting so rapidly, Harry. The barriers between realities are weakening. And what happens if Dumbledore gets control of me during the convergence? Harry asked. He reshapes reality according to his design, Xenophilius replied simply. Every dimension, every world, remade in his image of the greater good. And if someone else controls me? Like the Collector. Same outcome, different designer. Xenophilius adjusted his strange spectacles. That's why everyone is hunting you, Harry. You're the key that unlocks creation itself. The enormity of it pressed down on Harry like a physical weight. No wonder Dumbledore had manipulated his entire life. No wonder beings from across dimensions were suddenly appearing. What happens if nobody controls me? He asked quietly. If I'm just me during the convergence? Xenophilius looked surprised, as if this possibility hadn't occurred to him. I don't know. Perhaps nothing. Perhaps everything returns to normal when the dimensions separate again. Or perhaps, Luna spoke up from her corner, you decide how things should be. All eyes turned to her. The catalyst doesn't just enable change, she continued in her dreamy voice. It directs it. If no one controls you, Harry, then you control the convergence. Her words hung in the air like a prophecy. I need to learn to control these powers, Harry said finally. Before the convergence happens. That won't be easy, Xenophilius cautioned. Your abilities are drawing from 3 different reality systems. Mastering any one would be challenging. Mastering all 3 simultaneously might be impossible. I don't have a choice, Harry replied. If what you're saying is true, everyone from Dumbledore to the Collector will be hunting me. I need to be able to protect myself, and my friends. Xenophilius studied him thoughtfully. There might be a way. Not to master all your abilities at once, but to achieve temporary stability. He rummaged through a cabinet and produced a strange device, a silver headband etched with runes and embedded with crystals. This is a dimensional harmonizer, he explained. My wife designed it for previous tri-blood experiments. It won't give you control, but it might prevent your conflicting energies from tearing you apart as your powers grow. Harry took the device cautiously. Does it work? Theoretically. Xenophilius grimaced. There weren't any successful subjects to test it on before you. Brilliant, Ron muttered. Harry examined the headband. It hummed slightly in his hands, the crystals glowing faintly in response to his touch. I'll take any help I can get, he decided, placing it against his forehead. The moment the metal touched his skin, the harmonizer reshaped itself, wrapping around his head like a silver circlet. The crystals pulsed with 3 distinct colors, blue, gold, and crimson, before settling into a steady glow. A wave of clarity washed over Harry. The competing energies that had been chaotically swirling inside him seemed to align, flowing together rather than against each other. Better? Hermione asked, watching him closely. Harry nodded, surprised. Much. It's like, everything's working together instead of fighting. The harmonizer is creating a stable field where your 3 genetic patterns can coexist, Xenophilius explained. It won't last forever, but it should buy you time to develop natural control. Time we don't have much of, Ron pointed out. If this convergence thing happens in a week. And we still don't know what Dumbledore's planning, Hermione added. Harry's thoughts raced. With the harmonizer stabilizing his powers, He could think more clearly about their next move. "Mr. Lovegood, you mentioned my mother's research," he said. "Do you have any of her notes? Anything that might explain what she was working on?" "Not here," Xenophilius replied. "But I know where they might be stored." The Convergence Project had a secret facility, a laboratory hidden beneath Stonehenge. "Stonehenge?" Ron exclaimed. "Seriously?" "The ancient stone circle sits at a dimensional weak point," Xenophilius explained. "A natural portal between realities. That's why it was built in the first place, to monitor and study the barriers between worlds. And my mother's research would be there?" Harry pressed. "If it exists anywhere, yes. But getting in won't be easy. The facility is heavily warded and protected by both magical and technological security systems." Harry turned to his friends. "We need those notes. If my mother discovered something important enough to make her volunteer for this experiment, it might tell us what Dumbledore's really planning." "I'm in," Ron said immediately. "Me too," Hermione agreed. "But Harry, we need a plan. We can't just walk into a secret facility." Before Harry could respond, every device in Xenophilius's observatory began to shriek in alarm. The transparent ceiling darkened as storm clouds gathered with unnatural speed. "We've been found," Xenophilius said, his face paling. Luna moved to the window. "Asgardians," she announced calmly. "At least 3 of them." Harry joined her at the window. Through the rapidly darkening sky, he could make out 3 armored figures descending on the rainbow light of the Bifrost. "It's Thora," he recognized the lead figure. "And she's brought friends." "Asgardian warriors," Xenophilius whispered, awestruck. "Here." "They're not here to sightsee," Ron said grimly. "They want Harry." Harry made a quick decision. "Mr. Lovegood, is there another way out of here?" "The basement has an emergency tunnel," Xenophilius replied. "Built for precisely this type of interdimensional incursion. Dad's been preparing for the convergence for years," Luna explained. "Get them out," Harry told Xenophilius, nodding toward Ron and Hermione. "I'll hold off the Asgardians." "What?" "No." Hermione protested. "We're not leaving you." "You have to," Harry insisted. "Find my mother's research. I'll catch up." Ron looked torn. "Harry, mate, those are literal gods out there." "And I'm part god, apparently," Harry replied with a grim smile. "Besides, Thora didn't seem hostile before. Maybe I can reason with her." Another crash of thunder shook the house. "There's no time to argue," Harry said. "Go. I'll find you." Hermione hugged him fiercely. "Be careful. And take this." She pressed a small golden coin into his hand, one of the enchanted DA galleons. "So we can communicate." Harry nodded, tucking it into his pocket. "Get to Stonehenge. Find my mother's work." Ron clasped his shoulder. "Don't do anything stupid." "Too late for that," Harry replied with a wry smile. As Xenophilius led his friends toward the basement, Harry turned to Luna, who hadn't moved. "You should go with them," he told her. Luna shook her head. "I'll help you. Asgardians respect the truth. I'm very good at telling the truth." Harry couldn't argue with that logic. "All right. Let's go greet some gods." They stepped outside just as 3 Asgardian warriors landed in the garden, their arrival scorching a perfect circle into the grass. At the center stood Thora, her red cape billowing in the wind she'd summoned, hammer crackling with lightning. "Harry Potter," she called, her voice carrying the authority of centuries. "The All-Father demands your presence in Asgard." Harry approached calmly, the dimensional harmonizer on his brow glowing steadily. "I have questions before I go anywhere, Lady Thora." The 2 warriors flanking her tensed, hands moving to their weapons. One was a grim-looking man with dark hair and a sword that seemed to drink in light. The other was a woman with fierce eyes and twin daggers at her belt. "You speak as if you have a choice," the male warrior growled. "Hogun," Thora warned before turning back to Harry. "The convergence approaches, try blood. Asgard must understand your nature before the barriers between realms collapse." "You mean before Odin decides whether I'm a threat or an asset," Harry countered. The female warrior stepped forward menacingly. "You will show respect when speaking of the All-Father." "Sif," Thora cautioned her companion. "He is not wrong." She studied Harry more carefully, noting the silver circlet. "Your powers have stabilized since our last meeting." "Temporarily," Harry acknowledged. "But I'm not going to Asgard just to be another experiment." Thora's expression softened slightly. "Is that what you believe we intend?" "Isn't it?" Harry challenged. "The Collector told me everyone wants to use me as a catalyst for the convergence. Why would Asgard be different?" "The Collector," Sif spat the name like a curse. "You would trust the words of that interdimensional parasite?" "I don't trust anyone right now," Harry replied honestly. "Not until I understand what's happening to me." Luna stepped forward, her dreamy demeanor unchanged despite facing 3 divine warriors. "Hello," she said serenely. "I'm Luna." Harry isn't being difficult. He just discovered his entire existence was engineered by Dumbledore as part of a 1,000-year plan to control reality. He's having a very reasonable identity crisis. The Asgardian stared at the strange girl, momentarily speechless. Thora recovered first, a ghost of a smile touching her lips. "You speak with unusual directness, Luna of Midgard." "Thank you," Luna replied. "Daddy says I lack a filter between my brain and my mouth. It's very efficient for communication." Harry fought the urge to laugh despite the tension of the moment. "Lady Thora," he said, redirecting the conversation, "I need information, not a one-way trip to Asgard. What does Odin know about the Convergence project? About what Dumbledore's planning?" Thora exchanged glances with her companions before replying. "The All-Father has been monitoring Dumbledore, or the entity that calls itself Dumbledore, for many centuries. His interest in the Convergence is concerning." "Then help me stop him," Harry urged. "My friends are trying to find my mother's research on the project. If we understand what Dumbledore's planning, maybe we can prevent it." "Mortals meddling with cosmic forces," Hogun muttered disapprovingly. "Said the pot to the kettle," Harry shot back. "Asgardians have been meddling with humans for thousands of years." Sif looked ready to draw her weapons, but Thora raised a hand to stop her. "He has spirit," Thora observed, studying Harry with newfound interest. "And Asgardian blood flows through his veins." "Perhaps." A sudden rumble interrupted her, but it wasn't thunder. The ground beneath their feet trembled as a familiar crack appeared in the air, the same spatial distortion Harry had used to transport himself and his friends. "Kryptonians," Thora growled, raising her hammer. The air rippled, and 3 figures emerged from the distortion, not projections this time, but solid beings in form-fitting suits emblazoned with the same symbol Harry had seen on the projection's chest. "House of El," Harry whispered, recognizing the symbol. The lead Kryptonian stepped forward, a stern-looking woman with piercing blue eyes. "Kal-El," she addressed Harry directly. "Your genetic signature has activated our long-range sensors. The High Council demands your return to the Phantom Zone colony." "Phantom Zone?" Harry repeated, confused. "I thought Krypton was destroyed." "Our homeworld, yes," the woman confirmed. "But a fraction of our population escaped to the dimensional pocket known as the Phantom Zone. We have maintained our civilization there, awaiting the right moment to emerge." "Let me guess," Thora interjected sarcastically, "during the convergence." The Kryptonian's eyes narrowed. "Our affairs are not Asgard's concern, daughter of Odin. They become our concern when you tamper with human bloodlines," Thora countered. "That was not our doing," the Kryptonian insisted. "The genetic material from the House of El was stolen centuries ago. We have been searching for it ever since. By Dumbledore, Harry realized aloud. Both the Asgardians and Kryptonians turned to him. You know of this? The Kryptonian woman demanded. Harry quickly explained what he'd learned from Xenophilius, about Dumbledore's centuries-long project, the manipulation of bloodlines, and the creation of the tri-blood catalyst. The Kryptonian delegation exchanged alarmed glances. This confirms our worst fears, the woman said. The entity known as Dumbledore has been manipulating the convergence for his own purposes. What purposes? Harry pressed. What does he want? To remake reality, Thora answered grimly. To erase the mistakes of the past and create a new order according to his vision. And that's bad because? Harry asked. I mean, fixing mistakes sounds good in theory. Because reality is not his to remake, the Kryptonian woman explained. The consequences of such interference ripple across all dimensions. Entire timelines, civilizations, species, wiped out with a thought. Playing God, Luna summarized simply. Yes, Thora agreed. Even the All-Father, with all his power, would not dare attempt such a thing. The cosmic balance is delicate. Harry's mind raced, processing the implications. So both Asgard and Krypton want to stop Dumbledore from using me to control the convergence? Yes, the Kryptonian woman confirmed. Then help me, Harry urged. Instead of fighting over who gets to take me back to their realm, help me understand these powers and stop Dumbledore. The leaders of both delegations studied him thoughtfully. You propose an alliance? Thora asked. I propose cooperation, Harry clarified. I need to find my mother's research on the Convergence Project. It might tell us exactly what Dumbledore's planning and how to stop it. Where is this research? The Kryptonian woman asked. A facility beneath Stonehenge, Harry replied. My friends are already headed there. The ground shook again, but differently this time, a magical tremor rather than a dimensional distortion. Wizards, Hogan warned, scanning the horizon. Sure enough, multiple apparition cracks sounded around the property as dark-robed figures appeared, not Death Eaters, but unspeakables from the Department of Mysteries, led by a grim-faced wizard Harry recognized as Augustus Rookwood. Harry Potter, Rookwood called out, by order of the Minister of Magic, you are to be taken into custody for examination and containment. Oh great, Harry muttered. The Ministry's involved now too. That is not Fudge's doing, Luna whispered. The unspeakables operate independently. They must have detected your energy signature. Harry assessed the rapidly deteriorating situation, Asgardians to his left, Kryptonians to his right, and now Ministry wizards surrounding them. Any minute, Dumbledore himself might appear, or worse, the Collector. He made a split-second decision. Lady Thora, he addressed the Asgardian, would Heimdall be able to transport all of us to Stonehenge? Thora raised an eyebrow. The Bifrost can be directed anywhere. But you would come to Asgard after. I'll consider it, Harry hedged, if you help me find answers first. The Kryptonian woman stepped closer. The Phantom Drive can transport us more precisely, without the light show that announces your Bifrost. We don't have time to argue about transportation methods, Harry snapped as the unspeakables began casting containment wards around the property. My friends need help, and we need those research files. A standoff ensued, neither delegation willing to defer to the other. Luna, in her characteristic directness, broke the impasse. Why not both? The Asgardians can create a diversion while the Kryptonians transport Harry to Stonehenge. All eyes turned to the strange girl. A tactical suggestion worthy of Tyr himself, Thora said with grudging respect. The Kryptonian leader nodded. Logical. Our stealth capabilities would be more effective for infiltration. Then it's settled, Harry said quickly, before they could start arguing again. He turned to Luna. Go with Thora. Find my friends and tell them I'm coming. I'll find them, Luna promised. They'll be following the blibbering humdingers that nest beneath Stonehenge. Harry didn't bother questioning this statement. Lady Thora, can I trust you to ensure my friend's safety? Thora placed her fist over her heart in a formal salute. On my honor as daughter of Odin, I will protect them. Thank you. Harry turned to the Kryptonian delegation. I'm ready when you are. The lead Kryptonian extended her hand. I am Farao, Science Council representative. Hold tight, phantom drive transportation feels unsettling to the uninitiated. Harry clasped her arm. I'm getting used to unsettling. Farah nodded to her companions, who formed a circle around them. Initiate drive sequence. The air rippled around them as a strange blue energy field enveloped their group. Now! Thora shouted to her warriors, raising her hammer to the sky. Lightning crashed down as the Asgardians launched their diversion, the Bifrost activating in a spectacular rainbow column that engulfed Thora, Luna, and the other warriors. The unspeakables scrambled to respond, their containment spells disrupted by the Asgardian energy. In that moment of chaos, the phantom drive activated. Harry felt his body dissolve into particles, consciousness stretched across space as they teleported away from the rookery. The sensation of being pulled through the phantom drive was unlike anything Harry had experienced, not the compression of apparition or the hooking sensation of a port key, but a strange dimensional folding that seemed to turn him inside out and back again. When reality reassembled around him, they stood in the center of Stonehenge, the ancient monoliths towering above them in the early morning light. The site was deserted, tourists not yet arrived for the day. We have approximately 12 minutes before the local authorities notice the energy signature, one of the Kryptonian scientists informed Farah. She nodded briskly. More than enough time. Where is this facility and trance? Harry scanned the stone circle, his enhanced vision automatically shifting through spectrums. There, he pointed to a seemingly ordinary patch of ground between two fallen monoliths. I can see a magical signature beneath the soil. Farah studied him with clinical interest. Your Kryptonian abilities are developing rapidly, despite your mixed heritage. Fascinating. The dimensional harmonizer is helping, Harry explained, touching the silver circlet on his brow. It's keeping the different energies from fighting each other. A crude solution, Farah observed, but effective for temporary stability. She approached the spot Harry had indicated, running her hand just above the ground. Yes, I detect dimensional variance here. A concealed entrance. Can you open it? Harry asked. In response, Farah pressed her palm against the earth. A surge of Kryptonian energy pulsed from her hand, interacting with the magical barrier beneath. The ground shimmered and melted away, revealing a spiral staircase descending into darkness. After you, Farah gestured. Harry hesitated. What about Thora and my friends? The Asgardians will locate the entrance themselves, Farah replied dismissively. Their diversion should keep the wizard authorities occupied temporarily. Not entirely reassured, Harry nonetheless began descending the stairs. His enhanced vision adjusted instantly to the darkness, revealing a tunnel that appeared to be part ancient stonework, part modern laboratory. This facility has been active recently, one of the Kryptonian scientists noted, examining the walls. Energy signatures are fresh. Harry's senses picked up something else, familiar heartbeats ahead. My friends are already here, he said with relief. They followed the tunnel as it curved downward, eventually opening into a vast underground chamber. The ceiling glowed with magical constellations, illuminating a space filled with strange equipment, part magical, part technological, and part something else entirely. In the center of the chamber, a confrontation was already underway. Ron and Hermione stood back to back, wands raised, facing off against a figure Harry recognized with a jolt, Severus Snape. Harry! Hermione called, spotting him first. Watch out! Snape's involved in the project. Snape turned, his black eyes widening at the sight of Harry flanked by Kryptonians. Potter, he sneered, though Harry detected a note of unease beneath the familiar contempt. Still causing chaos wherever you go. Professor, Harry acknowledged coolly, stepping forward. I'm here for my mother's research. Something flickered in Snape's expression at the mention of Lily. Your mother's work is classified at the highest level. You have no authorization to access it. I don't need authorization, Harry replied. I am her work, aren't I? The culmination of her research? Snape's jaw tightened. You understand nothing, Potter. As usual. Then enlighten me, Harry challenged. What was the Convergence project really about? What was my mother trying to accomplish? For a moment, it seemed Snape might actually answer. Then his eyes shifted to the Kryptonians behind Harry. You bring extraterrestrial entities into a secure facility, he said coldly. That alone is grounds for immediate containment. We don't have time for this, Farah interrupted, stepping forward. Where are the research archives? Snape's hand tightened on his wand. You have no authority here, Kryptonian. I have all the authority I need, Farah replied, her eyes beginning to glow red with heat vision. Stop. Harry moved between them. Fighting each other is exactly what Dumbledore wants. We need answers, not another confrontation. A slow clap echoed through the chamber. Well said, Harry. Everyone turned toward the sound. Dumbledore stood at another entrance to the chamber, looking calm and composed despite the chaos his project had unleashed. Professor, Harry acknowledged, tension radiating through his body. I see you've brought friends, Dumbledore observed, glancing at the Kryptonians. Though I'm surprised Farrell would leave the Phantom Zone. The Council must be quite concerned. You have stolen genetic material from the House of L, Farah accused. Violated our sacred bloodlines for your experiments. Borrowed, not stolen, Dumbledore corrected mildly. And put to good use, as you can see. He gestured toward Harry. Harry felt his anger rising. Good use? You experimented on generations of my family. Created me as a tool for your plans. Not a tool, Harry, Dumbledore said, his voice softening. A savior. The only being capable of guiding the Convergence toward a positive outcome. What outcome? Harry demanded. What exactly is your plan for reshaping reality? Dumbledore sighed. If I simply told you, you wouldn't understand. You need to see for yourself what's at stake. He waved his hand, and a section of the wall dissolved, revealing a hidden chamber beyond. Inside was what appeared to be a massive containment unit, a crystalline structure housing a swirling vortex of energy. What is that? Hermione whispered, her scientific curiosity momentarily overriding her fear. The result of previous attempts at creating a tri-blood catalyst, Dumbledore explained. Failed experiments whose energies could not be contained within a physical form. Harry stared at the swirling mass. Those were people. Experiments like me that didn't work. Essences, Dumbledore corrected. Potential lives that never fully formed. Together, they create a dimensional anomaly I call the Remnant. An abomination, Farah stated flatly. You've created a dimensional wound. A necessary step toward understanding the Convergence, Dumbledore countered. The Remnant shows us what happens when the barriers between realities break down uncontrolled. Chaos. Dissolution of natural laws. Complete entropic collapse. Harry stepped closer to the containment unit, drawn by a strange familiarity. The swirling energies seemed to react to his presence, the patterns shifting and reaching toward him. They recognize you, Dumbledore observed. The successful version of themselves. You're sick, Ron spat, disgust evident in his voice. Creating life just to watch it fail. Dumbledore turned his piercing blue gaze on Ron. You see only cruelty because you don't understand the stakes, Mr. Weasley. The Convergence is coming regardless of our actions. Without a proper catalyst to guide it, reality itself will shatter. And you appointed yourself that guide, Harry said bitterly. Playing God with people's lives. Someone had to, Dumbledore replied simply. The alternatives were far worse. A new voice joined the conversation, Thora, entering the chamber with Luna and her Asgardian companions. Alternatives such as allowing natural cosmic law to prevail, she challenged. The convergence is part of the cycle of creation, Dumbledore. Not meant for manipulation. A convenient position for Asgard, Dumbledore replied smoothly. Whose dominance would continue unchallenged in a stable multiverse. Tensions in the chamber escalated, with Asgardians and Kryptonians on opposite sides, Snape and Dumbledore representing wizarding interests, and Harry, his friends, and Luna caught in the middle. Harry, Hermione whispered urgently, we found something while you were gone. In a sealed section of the archives. My mother's research, he asked quietly. She nodded. Not all of it, but enough. She wasn't just creating you as Dumbledore's catalyst. She was building in a failsafe. What kind of failsafe? I don't know exactly. The notes referenced something called convergence inversion, a way to redirect the energy instead of using it to reshape reality. Harry's mind raced. If his mother had built a failsafe into his very DNA, perhaps that explained his instinctive resistance to Dumbledore's control. Where are these notes now? He asked. Ron has them, Hermione replied. Shrunken in his pocket. Harry nodded slightly, turning his attention back to the increasingly heated exchange between the dimensional representatives. The convergence energy must be contained and directed properly, Dumbledore was insisting. Without guidance, it could destroy all realities, not just reshape them. And you appoint yourself that guide? Farah challenged. A being who has manipulated and experimented on living creatures for centuries. I have the experience and perspective necessary for such responsibility, Dumbledore replied calmly. Can you say the same, Farah of Krypton? Would you trust Odin with such power? He added, looking at Thora. I trust neither, Harry interjected, stepping forward. All eyes turned to him. This isn't about who controls the convergence. It's about stopping it from being controlled at all. Dumbledore's expression grew serious. That's not possible, Harry. The energy must be directed somewhere. My mother didn't think so, Harry challenged. She built a failsafe, didn't she? A way to neutralize the convergence instead of manipulating it. A flicker of surprise crossed Dumbledore's face, the first genuine emotion Harry had seen from him. Lily was brilliant, but misguided in her final conclusions. The convergence cannot be stopped, only directed. You're lying, Harry said flatly. I can hear your heartbeat, Professor. Remember? Kryptonian senses. The temperature in the room seemed to drop as Dumbledore's grandfatherly facade slipped further. What did you find in the archives? He asked sharply. Before anyone could respond, a new disturbance rippled through the chamber, a strange warping of space that Harry now recognized as a dimensional intrusion. No, Farah whispered, recognizing the signature. Not here. Not now. The air split open, and the collector stepped through, looking exactly as he had at Grimmauld Place, shifting features and too many teeth in his smile. What a gathering, he exclaimed with evident delight. Representatives from 3 realities, all in one place. And the tri-blood catalyst at the center. Perfect timing. Collector, Dumbledore acknowledged coldly. This doesn't concern you. Oh, but it does, the collector replied, his gaze fixed hungrily on Harry. The convergence concerns everyone with a stake in reality. And my collection requires completion. Harry tensed, ready for another confrontation, when the collector made an unexpected move, not toward him, but toward Ron. I'll take those notes, he said, his arm stretching unnaturally across the chamber to snatch at Ron's pocket. Ron leapt backward, but not fast enough. The collector's fingers closed around something in his pocket, extracting a tiny bundle of shrunken papers. No! Hermione cried. With lightning reflexes, Harry launched himself across the room, tapping into his Kryptonian speed. He collided with the collector just as the being was withdrawing his arm, sending them both crashing into the wall. Impressive acceleration, the collector noted, seemingly unfazed by the impact. Your Kryptonian abilities are developing nicely. Harry grappled with him, trying to reclaim the stolen notes. Give those back. I think not, the collector replied, his form becoming temporarily intangible, causing Harry to pass through him. These are far too valuable. The chamber erupted into chaos. Dumbledore and Snape cast containment spells to prevent the collector's escape. Thora hurled her hammer, which the collector barely dodged. The Kryptonians moved to flank him, heat vision charging in their eyes. In the confusion, no one noticed Ron being pulled toward the containment unit housing the remnant. The swirling energies seemed to reach out, tendrils of power wrapping around him. Harry, he shouted in panic. Something's got me. Harry turned to see his friend being dragged toward the dimensional anomaly. Without hesitation, he abandoned his fight with the collector and raced toward Ron, grabbing his arms. Hold on. Harry yelled, pulling against the invisible force. The dimensional harmonizer on his brow flared brightly as he channeled his triple heritage, Kryptonian strength, Asgardian resilience, and wizard magic all working in concert to fight the remnant's pull. For a moment, it seemed to be working. Ron's movement toward the containment unit slowed. Then, horribly, the crystalline structure began to crack. No! Dumbledore shouted, genuine fear in his voice. The containment field is failing. The remnant cannot be allowed to escape. What happens if it does? Hermione cried. Dimensional collapse, Farah answered grimly. Beginning here and spreading outward. The collector, still holding Lily Potter's notes, laughed. Chaos. Beautiful chaos. The perfect addition to my collection. With a final loud crack, the containment unit shattered. The swirling energy of the remnant surged forward, not toward Harry as everyone expected, but toward Ron. No! Harry screamed, still gripping his friend's arms. A blinding flash filled the chamber as the remnant enveloped Ron completely. Harry was thrown backward by the force, crashing into Hermione and sending them both to the floor. When the light faded, Ron stood in the center of the chamber, but not Ron as they knew him. His eyes glowed with the same swirling energy that had composed the remnant. His skin seemed translucent in places, revealing dimensional energy flowing beneath. Ron. Harry called uncertainly, picking himself up. Ron turned toward him, his movements jerky and unnatural. When he spoke, his voice echoed with multiple overlapping tones. Not, just. Ron, he said haltingly. We are. The remnant. Failed experiments, forgotten potentials, discarded lives. Fascinating, the collector murmured. The remnant has found a host. Dumbledore stepped forward cautiously. Mr. Weasley, you must fight the entity's control. It will consume your consciousness if you allow it. Ron, or the being now occupying Ron, turned toward Dumbledore. Creator, it hissed, hatred evident in its multi-layered voice. You made us. Abandoned us. Left us to suffer between dimensions. It was necessary, Dumbledore began. Necessary? The chamber shook with the force of the remnant's rage. We were children. Experiments. Discarded when we failed to meet your requirements. Harry felt sick, the full horror of Dumbledore's centuries of experimentation suddenly viscerally real before him. These weren't just abstract essences, as Dumbledore had claimed, they were conscious beings, trapped between dimensions, aware of their abandonment. Ron, Hermione called, tears streaming down her face. Ron, I know you're in there. Please fight it. Ron's head turned jerkily toward her. For a moment, his expression softened, his true self seemingly pushing through. Hermione, he gasped. Can't, hold it back, too many voices. Release him, Thora demanded, stepping forward with hammer raised. Your quarrel is with Dumbledore, not this innocent boy. No, innocence, the remnant replied through Ron. All, complicit. The convergence, comes. The collector, who had been observing with fascination, suddenly moved toward Ron. You're a unique specimen now, he said eagerly. A mortal hosting a dimensional composite entity? You simply must join my collection. Stay back. Harry shouted, placing himself between the collector and Ron. The remnant's power surged visibly through Ron's body. We will not be contained again. We will not be collected. With a gesture, Ron, or the remnant, sent the collector flying across the chamber. The interdimensional being crashed into the wall with enough force to crack the ancient stone. Impressive, the collector remarked, picking himself up unharmed. But futile. The situation was deteriorating rapidly. Harry could feel Ron's life force weakening as the remnant consumed him from within. Dumbledore and Snape were preparing containment spells. The Kryptonians and Asgardians looked ready to neutralize the threat by any means necessary. In that moment of crisis, Luna stepped forward, approaching Ron without fear. Hello, she said calmly to the remnant. You're hurt and angry. That's understandable. The swirling energies within Ron seemed to pause, focusing on the strange girl. We are. Pain, it responded. Yes, Luna agreed. You've been trapped for a very long time. Used and discarded. But Ron isn't responsible for that. He's Harry's friend. He wants to help stop the convergence, not control it. The remnant studied her. Truth speaker, it acknowledged. We sense no deception. While Luna kept the remnant distracted, Harry turned to Hermione. The notes, he whispered urgently. What exactly did they say about the convergence inversion? Something about redirecting the energy back to its source instead of outward to reshape reality, she replied quickly. But it would require a willing conduit, someone who could channel the power without trying to control it. Harry's mind raced. The opposite of what Dumbledore planned. Precisely, Hermione nodded. Your mother built the potential into your DNA, but it would require a conscious choice to activate. Harry looked at Ron, his best friend now possessed by the accumulated suffering of Dumbledore's failed experiments. At the collector, who saw the convergence as merely another acquisition opportunity. At the representatives of Krypton and Asgard, each with their own agenda for cosmic power. And at Dumbledore, the architect of it all, whose plans spanned centuries and dimensions. We need those notes back, Harry decided. And we need to get Ron somewhere safe before the remnant consumes him completely. The collector still clutched Lily's research in one hand while preparing to capture Ron with the other. Harry needed a diversion. Thora, he called to the Asgardian warrior. The collector has my mother's research. We need it back. Thora understood immediately. With a battle cry that shook the chamber, she hurled her hammer at the collector, forcing him to dodge and disrupting his focus. In that moment of distraction, Harry moved with Kryptonian speed, snatching the shrunken notes from the collector's temporarily loosened grip. No. The collector snarled, realizing his prize was gone. Harry didn't slow down. He raced to Ron's side, where Luna was still somehow keeping the remnant calm with her strange, honest communication. Ron, Harry said urgently. I know you're in there. We need to get you out of here. Ron's eyes flickered, briefly returning to normal. Harry, it's so cold, so many voices. I know, mate, Harry said, gripping his friend's shoulder. But we're going to fix this. I promise. He turned to Luna. Can you keep talking to it? Keep it calm. Luna nodded. The remnant just wants to be acknowledged. To be heard after centuries of being ignored. Good, Harry said. Keep doing that. He whirled to face the chaotic chamber, where tensions between all factions were reaching a breaking point. Dumbledore was arguing heatedly with the Kryptonian delegation. Thora was keeping the collector at bay with her hammer. Snape looked torn between following Dumbledore's orders and something else, a conflict Harry had never seen in the normally composed professor. Enough! Harry shouted, channeling a burst of power through his voice that shook the entire chamber. Everyone froze, turning toward him. This ends now, Harry continued in a more normal tone. I have my mother's research. The remnant has possessed my friend. And the convergence is coming whether we want it to or not. Fighting each other only makes things worse. What do you propose? Farah asked after a moment of silence. A temporary truce, Harry replied. Until we understand exactly what's happening and how to address it. Unacceptable, Dumbledore interrupted. The remnant must be contained immediately. In its current state, linked to Ronald Weasley, it poses an exponential threat as the convergence approaches. Because it might interfere with your plans? Harry challenged. Because it could accelerate dimensional collapse, Dumbledore countered. Creating a chain reaction that destroys all realities, not just reshapes them. Harry looked to Farah and Thora for confirmation. Both nodded grimly. He speaks truth in this, Thora acknowledged reluctantly. The dimensional entity must be stabilized or contained, Farah agreed. Harry turned to Ron, whose body trembled with the effort of containing the remnant's power. What about Ron? What happens to him? An uncomfortable silence fell. The host body will not survive long-term possession, Farah finally stated clinically. The human form cannot sustain such energy. No, Hermione whispered, fresh tears welling in her eyes. Harry refused to accept this. There has to be another way. My mother's research deals with the convergence itself, not this specific complication, Dumbledore interjected. I'm sorry, Harry, but your friend is already lost. The kindest action now would be swift containment. Containment? Harry repeated incredulously. You mean imprisoning him like you did the remnant? Trapping my friend in conscious torment for centuries? A regrettable necessity, Dumbledore replied. Harry felt something snap inside him, the last thread of respect or trust he'd held for his former mentor. No. I refuse to accept that. The dimensional harmonizer on his brow pulsed in response to his emotions, the triple energies of his heritage surging through him. Without conscious thought, Harry began to rise from the ground, hovering several inches above the floor as power radiated from him in visible waves. Harry, Hermione warned, recognizing the danger signs. The harmonizer can't contain that much energy for long. She was right. Harry could feel the device growing hot against his skin as it struggled to balance the competing forces within him. But he didn't care. All that mattered was saving Ron. I'm taking him out of here, Harry announced. Somewhere safe, where we can find a solution that doesn't involve sacrificing my friend. You cannot leave, Dumbledore stated firmly, raising his wand. The situation is too volatile. Try and stop me, Harry challenged, his eyes beginning to glow with heat vision. The standoff might have erupted into open conflict if not for an unexpected intervention from Snape. There may be another option, he said quietly. All eyes turned to the potion's master. Severus, Dumbledore warned. Think carefully about what you're about to say. Snape's expression hardened. I have thought about little else for years, Headmaster. He turned to Harry. Potter, your mother was not working on the Convergence project merely to create you as a catalyst. She discovered something Dumbledore had kept hidden from the research team, the true purpose behind the Convergence manipulation. Severus, enough. Dumbledore commanded. For once, Snape ignored him. Lily found evidence that Dumbledore, or whatever entity he truly is, has been using the Convergence to sustain himself. Each cycle allows him to continue his existence beyond its natural span. He doesn't want to reshape reality for some greater good, he wants to ensure his own immortality. A shocked silence fell over the chamber. Is this true? Harry asked, turning to Dumbledore. The headmaster's grandfatherly facade had completely fallen away, revealing something ancient and cold beneath. Existence is preferable to oblivion, Harry. Surely you can understand that. At the cost of how many lives? Harry demanded. How many experiments? How many discarded essences like the remnant? A necessary sacrifice for the greater, don't you dare say, greater good. Harry shouted. Not after everything you've done. The collector laughed, drawing attention back to himself. How deliciously ironic. The great Albus Dumbledore, champion of self-sacrifice, secretly ensuring his own eternal existence at the expense of countless others. Be silent, Dumbledore commanded, a power in his voice that Harry had never heard before. To everyone's surprise, the collector actually obeyed, his mouth continuing to move but no sound emerging. Harry stared at this display of power, realizing just how little he knew about what Dumbledore truly was. Professor Snape, he said, not taking his eyes off Dumbledore, you mentioned another option for Ron. What is it? Snape hesitated, then reached into his robes and withdrew a small vial containing a swirling silver-gold liquid. Your mother's final creation. She called it the Essence Stabilizer. Theoretically, it could allow a human host to temporarily contain dimensional energy without being consumed by it. Temporarily? Hermione asked sharply. For how long? Long enough to find a permanent solution, Snape replied. Or at least, that was Lily's hope. Why would you help us? Harry asked suspiciously. You've always hated me. Something complex crossed Snape's face. I made a vow to your mother, Potter. To protect you from Dumbledore's ultimate plans. I have, failed in many respects. But perhaps not in this. He held out the vial. This is the only sample that exists. Dumbledore believed all of Lily's independent research was destroyed after her death. He didn't know I preserved this. Harry looked between the vial and Ron, who was visibly weakening as the remnant's energy pulsed through him. Will it hurt him? Harry asked. Less than what's happening now, Snape replied honestly. That was good enough for Harry. He nodded. Do it. Harry, Dumbledore interrupted, his voice carrying that strange new power. I cannot allow this interference. The convergence is too important. It's not your choice anymore, Harry replied, and before Dumbledore could react, he unleashed a burst of combined energy, Kryptonian heat vision, Asgardian cold, and wizard magic, directly at his former mentor. The blast caught Dumbledore by surprise, sending him crashing into the far wall. The Kryptonians and Asgardians, seeing their opportunity, moved to contain him, while Snape rushed to Ron's side with the vial. Hold him steady, Snape instructed Luna, who was still somehow keeping the remnant calm with her strange communication. Luna nodded, placing her hands on Ron's shoulders. It's all right, she told the remnant. This will help you both. No more pain. The remnant asked through Ron's mouth. Less pain, Luna promised honestly. Snape uncorked the vial. Weasley, if you can hear me, you need to drink this willingly. The potion requires consent to work. Ron's eyes flickered again, his true self briefly surfacing. Will, try. He gasped. Hermione moved to his side, taking his hand. Ron, please. We need you. That seemed to strengthen his resolve. With visible effort, Ron opened his mouth, allowing Snape to pour the potion down his throat. For a terrifying moment, nothing happened. Then Ron's body convulsed as the silver-gold liquid spread visibly through his veins, interacting with the remnant's energy. Where they met, a new pattern formed, not the chaotic swirling of before, but an organized, lattice-like structure. Ron screamed once, a sound of both agony and release. Then he collapsed to his knees, gasping for breath. Ron. Hermione called anxiously, kneeling beside him. He looked up, and his eyes were his own again, mostly. A faint swirl of energy remained visible behind his blue irises, but his expression was fully Ron. Blimey, he croaked. That was bloody awful. Harry felt relief flood through him. You're okay. Define okay, Ron replied weakly. Got about 1,000 voices in my head now, all chattering at once. But at least they're not trying to drive anymore. The potion worked, Snape observed with clinical detachment, though Harry thought he detected a hint of relief in the professor's voice. Not for long, came Dumbledore's voice, as the headmaster broke free from his momentary containment. The essence stabilizer is a temporary measure at best. As the convergence approaches, the dimensional energy will become increasingly unstable. He straightened his robes, looking barely disheveled despite the power Harry had unleashed against him. You've bought your friend some time, Harry. But not salvation. It's enough for now, Harry replied firmly. And it proves there are solutions beyond your control or containment. The collector, apparently freed from Dumbledore's silencing spell, clapped his hands together eagerly. What a delightful development. A human hosting a dimensional composite entity and a tri-blood catalyst, both defying the great Dumbledore. My collection grows more fascinating by the minute. You'll add neither to your twisted museum, Thora declared, positioning herself protectively near Harry and Ron. Faura and the Kryptonian delegation did the same, creating a barrier between the collector and his targets. Such possessiveness, the collector sighed. Very well. The direct approach fails, but there are other methods. He stepped backward, a dimensional rift opening behind him. Until the convergence, friends. I'll be watching with great interest. With that, he vanished into the rift, which sealed itself behind him. For a moment, the chamber was silent save for Ron's labored breathing as he adjusted to his new condition. We need to leave, Harry decided, helping Ron to his feet with Hermione's assistance. Find somewhere safe to study my mother's research properly. No safe place exists, Dumbledore stated flatly. Not with the convergence approaching. The dimensional barriers are thinning everywhere. Then we'll make one, Harry countered. Away from you and anyone else who wants to use me as a weapon or a tool. Dumbledore sighed, suddenly looking very old. Harry, despite what you believe, my intentions have always been, save it, Harry interrupted. You lost the right to explain yourself when you decided to experiment on generations of my family. He turned to Thora and Faura. I don't fully trust either of you, but I believe you want to stop the convergence from being weaponized. Will you help us escape? The representatives exchanged glances. The Bifrost is at your disposal, Thora offered. As is the Phantom Drive, Faura added, not to be outdone. Harry, Luna spoke up. I know somewhere they won't look for us. A place between dimensions that my mother discovered before she died. Harry hesitated, then nodded. Luna's strange insights had proven valuable so far. Lead the way. You cannot run from destiny, Harry, Dumbledore called as they prepared to leave. The convergence will find you wherever you hide. Harry met his former mentor's gaze one last time. I'm not running from destiny, Professor. I'm running from you. There's a difference. With that, he gathered Ron and Hermione close, nodded to Luna, and activated the space-bending ability he was growing more comfortable with. A flash of blue-gold light enveloped them as Harry channeled his tri-blood heritage to create a dimensional pocket, not quite teleportation, not quite apparition, but something in between. The last thing Harry saw before they vanished was Dumbledore's face, not angry, but calculating. Planning his next move in a game that had already spanned centuries. Whatever the convergence truly was, whatever role Harry was meant to play in it, one thing was certain, he would face it on his own terms. Not as Dumbledore's weapon, or Asgard's ally, or Krypton's lost son. But as Harry Potter. Whatever that might mean now. They materialized in a strange, shimmering space that seemed neither indoors nor outdoors. The sky above them swirled with colors that had no names in any human language. The ground beneath their feet felt solid, yet somehow permeable. Welcome to the in-between, Luna said serenely. My mother found it while researching dimensional pockets. It exists in the space between realities. Harry looked around in amazement. It's beautiful. And weird, Ron added, still looking pale but standing on his own now. Really bloody weird. Hermione was already examining their surroundings with scientific curiosity. It's like a bubble of stable space within the dimensional flux. Fascinating. Is it safe? Harry asked Luna. Mostly, she replied with characteristic honesty. Time moves differently here. And occasionally things from other dimensions wash up, but they're rarely dangerous. As if on cue, a strange creature resembling a cross between a rabbit and a jellyfish floated past them, its translucent tentacles trailing in the air. That's a dimensomorph, Luna explained. Perfectly harmless unless you're made of pure mathematical equations. Ron stared at her. You're having me on. Not at all, Luna replied seriously. Mathematics tastes like sugar to them. Harry couldn't help but smile despite everything. Luna's perspective was exactly what they needed right now, a reminder that not everything unknown was automatically threatening. How long can we stay here? He asked. A few days, subjectively, Luna answered. Though, days, is a flexible concept in the in-between. Long enough to study your mother's research properly. Harry pulled out the shrunken notes he'd recovered from the collector. With a tap of his wand, they returned to normal size, a thick bundle of parchment covered in Lily Potter's neat handwriting. Let's see what my mother was really working on, he said, sitting cross-legged on the strange ground. Hermione joined him immediately, while Ron sat nearby, occasionally rubbing his temples as he adjusted to the remnant's presence in his mind. How are you feeling? Harry asked his friend. Like I've got the entire Hogwarts student body arguing in my head, Ron replied with a weak smile. But I'm managing. The voices are calmer now. Less angry. Almost curious. They're experiencing individuality again, Luna observed. After being merged together for so long in the remnant. Can you communicate with them? Hermione asked hesitantly. Ron nodded slowly. Sort of. Not with words exactly. More like feelings and images. He shuddered slightly. They've been through hell, Harry. What Dumbledore did to them. Keeping them conscious but trapped for centuries. I know, Harry said grimly. And he'll pay for that. But first, we need to understand what we're dealing with. He turned his attention to Lily's notes, spreading them out before him. The pages were filled with complex diagrams, mathematical formulas, runic arrays, and detailed genetic mapping that looked far beyond anything Muggle science had achieved. This is incredible, Hermione breathed, examining a particularly complex diagram. Your mother was combining magical theory with advanced genetics and interdimensional physics. She was brilliant, Harry murmured, feeling a strange connection to the mother he'd never known through her work. Not just the powerful which everyone had told him about, but a scientific genius who had dared to question Dumbledore's grand plan. As they read through the notes, a clearer picture emerged of what Lily Potter had discovered, and why it had likely led to her death. According to this, Hermione summarized after an hour of intensive study, your mother realized that Dumbledore wasn't just trying to create a catalyst for the convergence. He was trying to create a vessel. A vessel for what? Harry asked, though he suspected he already knew the answer. Himself, Hermione confirmed. The entity we know as Albus Dumbledore is apparently ancient, far older than the human form he wears. Each convergence cycle, he transfers his consciousness into a new vessel to continue his existence. But why create such a complicated vessel? Ron asked. Why not just possess a normal wizard? Because a normal wizard couldn't contain his full power, Hermione explained. According to these notes, Dumbledore, or whatever he really is, exists across multiple dimensions simultaneously. A regular human body would burn out almost immediately. So he created me, Harry said flatly. A tri-blood hybrid specifically designed to host his consciousness during the convergence. Yes, Hermione confirmed reluctantly. But your mother realized what he was planning, and she built in a modification without his knowledge. The convergence inversion. What exactly does that do? Harry asked. Hermione turned to a section near the end of the notes. It's complicated, but essentially, instead of channeling convergence energy outward to reshape reality, you could theoretically redirect it back to its source. Back to Dumbledore, Harry realized. Precisely. Instead of him using you as a vessel, you could potentially, unmake him. The implications were staggering. His mother hadn't just been creating a weapon or a tool, she'd been creating a defense against an ancient entity's plans. So that's why she volunteered to carry me, Harry said quietly. Not just for Dumbledore's project, but to ensure her modification would work. She was protecting you the only way she could, Hermione agreed softly. By building the protection into your very DNA. Harry felt a surge of emotion, pride, grief, love for the mother he'd never truly known. So how do I activate this convergence inversion? Hermione bit her lip. That's where things get tricky. Your mother's notes aren't complete on that point. There are references to a conscious rejection of power and willingly surrendering control, but the specific mechanism isn't clear. Figures, Harry sighed. Nothing's ever straightforward, is it? Actually, Luna spoke up from where she'd been quietly listening, it sounds perfectly straightforward to me. They all turned to her. Everyone wants to use the convergence to control reality, she explained. Dumbledore, the Collector, even the Asgardians and Kryptonians to some extent. The convergence inversion must require you to do the opposite, to specifically not try to control anything. Harry stared at her. That, actually makes perfect sense. Luna's right, Hermione said, scanning the notes again. Your mother references the paradox of power, that true power comes from refusing to use it for personal gain. So I just, what? Stand in the middle of this cosmic event and think happy thoughts? Harry asked skeptically. Not exactly, Hermione replied. According to these calculations, you would need to be at the focal point of the convergence, actively channeling its energy, but consciously redirecting it back toward its source rather than outward to reshape reality. And the source is Dumbledore, Harry concluded. Or whatever entity is using Dumbledore as its current form, Hermione corrected. Ron, who had been unusually quiet, suddenly spoke up. The voices, the remnant, they know something about this. They're trying to show me. His eyes glazed slightly as he focused inward on the countless consciousnesses now sharing his mind. They're saying Dumbledore isn't the only one. There are others like him, interdimensional beings who use the convergence to sustain themselves. Others? Harry repeated. Like who? Ron's expression became distant as he communicated with the remnant. They don't know names, just impressions. Beings who exist across multiple realities, manipulating events to serve their purposes. The Collector might be one of them, Hermione suggested. That makes sense, Harry agreed. The way he talked about the convergence, how familiar he was with it. The voices are showing me something else, Ron continued, his face contorting with effort. A place. The true focal point of the convergence. Not Stonehenge, that's just a monitoring station. The real nexus is. Where, Ron? Harry urged. Godric's Hollow, Ron finally managed. Where it all began for you, Harry. Where your parents died. The house itself sits on the precise point where dimensions naturally thin during the convergence cycle. Harry felt a chill. That's why Voldemort attacked that night. Not just because of the prophecy, but because of the location. Voldemort, Hermione gasped suddenly. What if he's another one of these entities? Using the convergence to maintain his existence. The theory made disturbing sense. Voldemort's obsession with immortality, his inhuman transformation, his strange connection to Harry. We need to get to Godric's Hollow, Harry decided. Before the convergence begins. That's in less than a week, Hermione reminded him. And everyone will be looking for us, Dumbledore, the Ministry, the Collector, probably Voldemort too. Not to mention the Asgardians and Kryptonians, Ron added. Harry ran a hand through his hair in frustration. We need more information. And I need better control of these powers before facing Dumbledore again. The dimensional harmonizer on his brow pulsed, reminding him of its presence. It had stabilized his conflicting energies temporarily, but he could feel it growing weaker with each passing hour. The harmonizer won't last much longer, he admitted. We need a more permanent solution. What about the Kryptonian ship? Hermione suggested. The one you mentioned was buried in Antarctica. If it contains technology from your Kryptonian ancestors, it might help you master that part of your heritage at least. Harry considered this. It's worth a try. But how do we get to Antarctica from here? I can help with that, Luna said. The in-between connects to all places. We just need to find the right fold in the dimensional fabric. She stood and began walking across the strange landscape, occasionally stopping to examine what appeared to be wrinkles in the air itself. Is she serious? Ron whispered. At this point, I'm willing to try anything, Harry replied. Luna stopped about 50 yards away, beckoning them over. Here, she said, pointing to what looked like a ripple in reality. This fold connects to Earth's southern hemisphere. We can use it to reach Antarctica. Harry approached the dimensional ripple cautiously. How does it work? Just step through while focusing on your destination, Luna explained. The in-between responds to intention. Harry exchanged glances with Ron and Hermione. After everything they'd experienced in the past day, a dimensional shortcut seemed almost mundane. Let's do it, he decided. The sooner we find this ship, the sooner I can get some answers about my Kryptonian side. What about Ron? Hermione asked worriedly. Is it safe for him to travel between dimensions with the remnant inside him? Ron straightened, a new determination in his eyes despite his obvious exhaustion. The voices actually want to go. They say they recognize the Kryptonian energy. That it might help stabilize them further. If you're sure, Harry said, still concerned for his friend. Ron nodded. I'm with you, mate. All the way. Harry took a deep breath, focusing on his mother's notes one last time before carefully folding and pocketing them. Then let's find this ship. Maybe it has answers about the convergence that even Dumbledore doesn't know. Together, the four of them stepped toward the dimensional ripple. Harry concentrated on the image of Antarctica that the Kryptonian portion of his consciousness supplied, a vast ice shelf concealing an ancient ship beneath. The ripple expanded, enveloping them in swirling energy as the in-between bent and folded around their intentions. Reality stretched, compressed, then snapped back into focus. Blinding white light and bitter cold assaulted their senses as they materialized on an endless expanse of ice. The Antarctic wind howled around them, temperatures well below freezing. Bloody hell! Ron shouted over the wind. Couldn't your ship be buried somewhere tropical? Harry was already casting warming charms on all of them, his wizard magic responding instinctively to the danger. This way, he said with strange confidence, some internal compass guiding him across the ice. It's close. As they trudged through the snow, Harry felt something awakening within him, a connection to his Kryptonian heritage stronger than anything he'd experienced before. The ship was calling to him, reaching out across the ice with an energy his altered DNA recognized on a fundamental level. After 20 minutes of difficult travel, they reached what appeared to be an ordinary ice formation, a small hill rising from the otherwise flat landscape. This is it, Harry announced, placing his hand against the ice. The ship is directly below us. How do we get in? Hermione asked, teeth chattering despite the warming charms. Harry didn't answer immediately. Instead, he closed his eyes, focusing on the Kryptonian energy within him. The dimensional harmonizer glowed brighter as he channeled this specific aspect of his heritage. He placed both palms flat against the ice and pushed, not with physical strength, but with something deeper. A resonance between his DNA and the ship buried below. The ice began to tremble, then crack. A blue light shone through the fissures as something ancient awakened from centuries of dormancy. "Stand back," Harry warned as the ice hill began to collapse inward. They retreated to a safe distance, watching in awe as a massive shape emerged from beneath the ice, a sleek, metallic structure of clearly alien design. The ship was smaller than Harry had expected, perhaps the size of a large house, but its otherworldly architecture was unmistakable. As the last of the ice fell away, a doorway appeared in the ship's hull, blue light spilling out to illuminate the snowy landscape. "I guess that's an invitation," Harry said, stepping toward the entrance. "Harry," Hermione cautioned, grabbing his arm. "Be careful. We don't know what's in there." "Part of me does," he replied quietly. "The Kryptonian part recognizes this ship. It's calling to me, Hermione." Ron, still adjusting to the remnant's presence, nodded in understanding. "The voices feel it too. They say it's safe, for you at least." That wasn't entirely reassuring, but Harry had come too far to turn back now. "Stay close," he told his friends as he approached the ship's entrance. As they stepped inside, the alien vessel hummed to life around them. Lights activated along crystalline corridors, illuminating a technology so advanced it seemed magical. The interior was larger than the outside suggested, with multiple chambers branching off from the main corridor. "It's beautiful," Hermione whispered, her scientific curiosity overcoming her caution. The ship responded to Harry's presence, doors opening automatically as he approached. It guided them to what appeared to be a central command chamber, a crystalline room dominated by a control console and a raised platform. When Harry stepped onto the platform, a holographic interface activated, surrounding him with projected symbols and Kryptonian text that he somehow understood. "Genetic material from the House of L detected," a voice announced in Kryptonian, then switched to English. "Initiating familial recognition protocols." The platform beneath Harry glowed, scanning him from head to toe. "Anomalous genetic structure identified," the ship's AI continued. "Subject possesses Kryptonian, Asgardian, and terrestrial DNA in stable configuration." "Unprecedented." "Yes, I've been hearing that a lot lately," Harry replied dryly. "Do you have a name?" "This vessel is designated Scout Ship 0619, containing the emergency genetic codex of the House of L. I am its custodial intelligence." "Can I call you something shorter?" Harry asked. "Maybe. L." The AI paused, as if considering. "Designation, L, accepted for simplified communication." "Great," Harry said, relaxing slightly. "L, I need your help. I recently discovered my unusual heritage, and I need to understand the Kryptonian part of me. Especially with the convergence approaching." The holographic display shifted, focusing on a three-dimensional model of DNA, Harry's DNA, with its triple helix structure clearly visible. "The convergence," L repeated. "A dimensional alignment that occurs every 7,432 solar cycles. Krypton has monitored previous occurrences from a scientific perspective." "Just scientific?" Hermione asked, stepping closer. "No attempt to utilize it?" "Negative," L replied. "The Science Council determined the convergence energy to be too unstable for practical application. Previous attempts resulted in catastrophic dimensional fractures." Harry exchanged significant glances with his friends. So Krypton knew better than to try controlling it. What about the Kryptonians who showed up recently? The ones from the Phantom Zone? L's holographic display shifted again, showing a pocket dimension outside normal spacetime. The Phantom Zone colony was established as a precaution against Krypton's destruction. However, they were only meant to emerge once a suitable planet was terraformed to Kryptonian specifications. So they're not following the original plan, Harry mused. They're using the convergence as an opportunity to return. Which could be just as dangerous as Dumbledore's plan, Hermione added. Different method, same problem, Ron agreed. Everyone wants to use this thing for their own agenda. Harry turned back to Elle. What do you know about tri-blood hybrids like me? Has anything like this been attempted before? Negative, Elle responded. Kryptonian genetic material is naturally incompatible with other species. Your existence suggests deliberate and sophisticated gene splicing beyond known science. My mother, Harry said softly. She perfected the technique. Accessing Kryptonian archives, Elle announced. Limited reference found to theoretical trispecies hybridization in forbidden research by Jor-El. Jor-El? Harry repeated. Who was he? Chief scientist of the House of El, executed for heresy against the Science Council after proposing controlled genetic modification to save Kryptonian civilization. Harry felt a strange connection to this unknown relative. He was trying to help, and they killed him for it. Affirmative, Elle confirmed. His research was subsequently classified. However, core principles were stored in this scout ship's database as part of the Emergency Preservation Protocol. Can you access that research? Harry asked eagerly. It might help me understand what I am. Affirmative. However, full access requires genetic confirmation from a pure Kryptonian source. Harry's hopes fell. I'm only 40% Kryptonian. Is that enough? Elle paused, analyzing. Partial access granted based on House of El genetic markers. Displaying available data. The holographic display expanded, filling the chamber with complex scientific information, genetic sequences, physiological adaptations, and theoretical energy manipulation techniques specific to Kryptonian biology. This is incredible, Hermione breathed, her eyes darting from one display to another. It's explaining how Kryptonian cells process solar radiation, converting it to usable energy. And how the cellular structure can be reinforced to withstand enormous physical stress, Ron added, surprising everyone with his insight. When they stared at him, he shrugged. The Remnant understands some of this. They were created using similar techniques. Harry focused on a particular display showing energy channeling methods. Elle, can this help me control my Kryptonian abilities more effectively? Affirmative. Jor-El's research included theoretical training methods for hybrid physiologies. Adapting protocols for your unique genetic structure. The platform beneath Harry reconfigured itself, crystalline structures rising to encircle him. Commencing adaptive training sequence. Please remain still. Before Harry could respond, energy flowed from the crystals into his body. It didn't hurt, in fact, it felt strangely familiar, as if part of him had been waiting for this connection. The dimensional harmonizer on his brow pulsed in response, its glow intensifying as it integrated the ship's energy with Harry's tri-blood physiology. Cellular recalibration in progress, Elle announced. Kryptonian DNA strands activating to full potential. Harry gasped as new sensations flooded through him. His vision shifted through multiple spectrums simultaneously, infrared, ultraviolet, electromagnetic. His hearing expanded to detect sounds miles away. Most remarkably, he could feel the solar energy stored in his cells, a reservoir of power waiting to be tapped. Harry? Hermione called anxiously. Are you all right? Better than all right, he replied, his voice steadier than it had been in days. I can feel it all now, not just random bursts of ability, but the full range of what my Kryptonian DNA allows. The crystals retracted, their work complete. Harry stepped off the platform, moving with a new grace and confidence. The chaotic energy that had been surging through him since the potion's accident now flowed in controlled channels. Kryptonian ability integration successful, Elle confirmed. Subject now has conscious control over solar energy absorption, cellular reinforcement, sensory enhancement, and gravitational manipulation. In English? Ron requested. Hermione translated excitedly. Harry can control his super strength, invulnerability, enhanced senses, and flight. All the abilities we've seen happening randomly are now under his conscious direction. To demonstrate, Harry gently rose a few feet off the ground, hovering effortlessly. It's like understanding a language I've been hearing but couldn't speak before. What about your other abilities? Hermione asked. The Asgardian and wizard aspects. Harry concentrated, reaching for the cold energy he'd accessed before. Frost formed around his hand, then dissipated as he released the power. Next, he focused on his magical core, feeling it respond more readily than ever as he cast a simple Lumos without his wand. They're easier to access now too, he reported. Not fully integrated like the Kryptonian abilities, but more manageable. The harmonizer is working better with the ship's help, Hermione theorized. It's creating a more stable matrix for your triple heritage. Elle's holographic interface shifted again. Warning, dimensional harmonizer approaching material failure. Estimated functionality remaining, 43 hours. That's not long enough, Harry said, touching the device on his brow. We still need to get to Godric's Hollow before the convergence peaks. Ship resources can be allocated to construct a replacement device with improved stability, Elle offered. However, complete trispecies integration would require additional data on Asgardian physiology. Ron suddenly straightened, his eyes briefly flashing with the remnant's energy. They say they can help with that. The failed experiments included Asgardian subjects. They remember the physiological data. Ron, are you sure? Harry asked, concerned. Accessing those memories sounds dangerous. It's already happening, Ron replied, wincing slightly as the remnant accessed specific information. They want to help, Harry. They see you as their redemption, I guess. The successful version of what they could have been. The ship responded to the remnant's energy, crystals extending from the walls to scan Ron. Dimensional composite entity detected. Processing offered data. For several tense minutes, the ship interfaced directly with the remnant through Ron, extracting the information it needed while stabilizing the chaotic energy to prevent harm to its host. Asgardian physiological data acquired, Elle finally announced. Constructing enhanced dimensional harmonizer. Estimated completion time, 6 hours. That's longer than we'd like, but necessary, Harry decided. In the meantime, I should practice with these abilities. Make sure I can control them properly when it counts. The ship includes a training chamber designed for power regulation, Elle informed them. Originally intended for young Kryptonians adapting to new planetary conditions. Perfect, Harry said. Ron, you should rest while the ship helps stabilize the remnant. Hermione, can you continue studying my mother's notes? See if there's anything else we missed about the convergence inversion. His friends nodded, grateful for clear direction amid the chaos of recent events. Luna, who had been quietly observing the ship with fascination, spoke up. I'll help Ron, she offered. The remnant responds well to me for some reason. Probably because you actually listen to them, Ron said with a weak smile. Instead of just treating them like a problem to solve. Elle directed them to appropriate chambers within the ship, a medical bay for Ron where crystal technology could help stabilize the remnant, a research area for Hermione with interfaces for analyzing Lily's notes, and the promised training chamber for Harry. As his friends settled into their tasks, Harry entered the training room, a large, crystalline space that reconfigured itself according to the user's needs. The moment he stepped inside, holographic projections appeared, creating scenarios for him to navigate using his various abilities. For the next several hours, Harry pushed himself to the limits of his new powers. He practiced flight control, hovering and maneuvering with increasing precision. He tested his strength against simulated resistance, learning to modulate his output to avoid causing unintended damage. He honed his heat vision, frost projection, and magical casting, gradually integrating all three aspects of his heritage. By the time Elle announced the completion of the enhanced harmonizer, Harry felt more in control of himself than he had since discovering his true nature. Not just physically, but mentally as well, the chaos of competing heritages now working in concert rather than conflict. His friends gathered in the command chamber as El presented the new device, a sleek, silvery circlet similar to the original harmonizer, but with integrated Kryptonian crystal technology. This device will maintain triple heritage stability for approximately 168 hours, El explained. Sufficient to navigate the convergence event. And if I need it longer? Harry asked. The design includes self-regenerating circuits based on your own cellular structure. Theoretically, it could adapt and sustain indefinitely as your natural integration improves. Harry carefully removed the original harmonizer, which had grown hot and was visibly deteriorating. The moment he took it off, he felt his energies begin to destabilize, competing forces threatening to tear him apart from within. Quickly, he placed the new circlet on his brow. It adjusted automatically, conforming to his physiology. Immediately, a wave of balance washed through him, more complete than anything the original device had provided. Better? Hermione asked, watching him closely. Harry nodded, relieved. Much. It's like, everything's in tune now. Ron, looking stronger after his time in the medical chamber, stepped forward. The remnants calmer too. The ship did something to help organize them, they're still all there, but less chaotic. The dimensional composite entity has been partially structured, El confirmed. However, long-term stability cannot be guaranteed without proper separation and individual containment. We'll worry about that after the convergence, Harry decided. Right now, our priority has to be stopping Dumbledore and whatever he's planning. I've found something else in your mother's notes, Hermione reported. A reference to what she called the convergence entity, a being formed from the combined consciousness of previous failed attempts to control the convergence. Another interdimensional being? Harry asked. Like Dumbledore or the Collector? I think so, Hermione replied. But more powerful and more dangerous. Your mother theorized that each time someone attempted to manipulate the convergence and failed, a fraction of their consciousness was absorbed into this entity. That sounds bad, Ron observed. It gets worse, Hermione continued. According to these calculations, the convergence entity grows stronger with each cycle. Eventually, it could become powerful enough to manipulate the convergence itself, essentially becoming what Dumbledore is trying to be. Harry considered this new complication. So we're potentially facing not just Dumbledore, but this convergence entity too. If it exists, Hermione qualified. Your mother's notes are theoretical on this point. It exists, Luna said quietly. Everyone turned to her. Mother mentioned it before she died. She called it, the one who waits between worlds. A chill ran down Harry's spine at Luna's words. He addressed the ship's AI, do Kryptonian records contain any reference to this convergence entity? The holographic display shifted, searching ancient databases. Limited reference found in pre-scientific council mythology. A being called Exedu, described as the collector of failed potentials. The collector, Harry repeated, remembering their interdimensional opponent. Could they be connected? Insufficient data for conclusion, El replied. However, etymological analysis suggests possible relation. Harry exchanged glances with his friends. The situation was growing more complex by the hour, not just Dumbledore and his millennia-spanning plan, but potentially multiple interdimensional entities with their own agendas for the convergence. We need to get to Godric's Hollow, he decided firmly. That's where everything converges, literally. If my mother built this convergence inversion into my DNA, that's where I'll need to activate it. The convergence peaks in approximately 76 hours, El informed them. Based on astronomical calculations and dimensional barrier thinning rates. 3 days, Hermione translated unnecessarily, looking worried. Not much time for planning. We don't have the luxury of more time, Harry replied. Dumbledore, the Collector, the Kryptonians, the Asgardians, they're all converging on Godric's Hollow too. We need to be ready. What's the plan? Ron asked, standing straighter despite the obvious strain of hosting the remnant. Because I'm guessing wing it and hope for the best isn't going to cut it this time. Harry smiled grimly. Actually, that's exactly the plan. According to my mother's notes, the convergence inversion requires me to reject control, to deliberately not try to manipulate the outcome. Planning too specifically might interfere with that. So we're definitely winging it, Ron concluded with a resigned sigh. Not entirely, Harry clarified. We know where to go, and approximately when. We know I need to be at the focal point when the convergence peaks. And we know everyone else will be trying to control me or the outcome. So we need to keep them from interfering, Hermione realized. That's where we come in. Exactly, Harry confirmed. I'll handle the actual convergence energy. You three keep the various factions from turning it into a cosmic tug-of-war. Against Dumbledore, Asgardians, Kryptonians, and who knows what else. Ron asked incredulously. Tall order, mate. We'll have help, Luna said confidently. The convergence brings possibilities together. Allies will appear. Harry wished he shared her certainty. Either way, we have to try. The alternative is Dumbledore reshaping reality according to his definition of the greater good, and we've seen where that leads. He turned to Elle. Can this ship take us to Godric's Hollow? Affirmative. This vessel is equipped with stealth technology and precision navigation systems. Transport to specified coordinates can be arranged immediately. Harry shook his head. Not immediately. We still have 3 days, and I want to use them. Continue training, studying my mother's notes, and making sure Ron and the Remnant remain stable. A wise decision, Elle acknowledged. Optimal performance will be critical during the convergence. As his friends dispersed to rest and prepare, Harry remained in the command chamber, studying the holographic displays of the convergence predictions. The swirling patterns of dimensional energy reminded him of the chaotic forces within himself, powerful, dangerous, but potentially balanced with the right approach. Elle, he asked quietly, what happens if I fail? If neither I nor Dumbledore controls the convergence? The AI was silent for a moment, calculating. Theoretical models suggest spontaneous realignment based on probability cascades. Some realities would merge, others separate. The outcome would be unpredictable. But not necessarily catastrophic. Harry pressed. Correct. Natural convergence cycles occurred for billions of years before sentient interference. The multiverse sustained itself through these transitions. Harry found that strangely reassuring. Perhaps the best outcome wasn't controlling the convergence, but simply preventing anyone else from doing so, allowing reality to rebalance itself naturally. As he pondered this, his hand unconsciously moved to his lightning scar. It had been oddly quiet through this entire ordeal, no pain, no visions from Voldemort. He wondered what that meant. Was Voldemort simply unaware of the convergence? Or was he, as Hermione had suggested, another player in this cosmic game, perhaps even another aspect of the same interdimensional entities they were already facing? Whatever the truth, Harry knew one thing for certain: in 3 days, at his parents' former home in Godric's Hollow, everything would change, for him, for his friends, and potentially for reality itself. All he could do was prepare, stay true to his mother's final gift, and hope that being Harry Potter, however complicated that identity had become, would be enough. Chapter 3, Convergence. The Kryptonian scout ship hummed through the night sky, its stealth systems rendering it invisible to both Muggle technology and magical detection. Inside the command chamber, Harry studied the holographic display of Godric's Hollow, a small village that looked absurdly normal considering what was about to happen there. 20 minutes to arrival, Elle announced. Dimensional barrier analysis indicates accelerating deterioration. The convergence is approaching critical threshold. Harry nodded, feeling the triple energies within him responding to the thinning barriers between realities. Even with the enhanced harmonizer, maintaining balance required constant focus. How's Ron doing? He asked Hermione, who just entered from the medical bay. Stable, for now, she replied, concern evident in her voice. The remnant seems to be protecting him, actually. They understand what's at stake. And Luna? Meditating, I think. She says she's listening to the spaces between dimensions. Whatever that means. Harry almost smiled. Probably exactly what it sounds like. He turned back to the holographic display, zooming in on one specific location, the ruins of his parents' cottage. According to both El's calculations and his mother's notes, the house sat directly above a dimensional weak point, a place where realities naturally intersected. No wonder Dumbledore arranged for my parents to live there, Harry said quietly. He was positioning his experiment at the exact spot where the convergence would be strongest. Hermione squeezed his shoulder supportively. Your mother figured it out, though. She built in a way to stop him. If I can make it work, Harry reminded her. The convergence inversion sounds simple in theory: reject control, redirect the energy, but with everyone trying to manipulate the outcome. That's why we're here, she said firmly. To keep them off you long enough to complete the process. Harry wished he shared her confidence. In the 3 days since discovering the Kryptonian ship, he'd mastered many of his new abilities through intensive training. The enhanced harmonizer allowed him to access and control his triple heritage with greater precision than ever before. But would it be enough against beings who had manipulated the convergence for centuries? We're being tracked, El announced suddenly. Multiple dimensional signatures converging on Godric's Hollow. Identifying. Asgardian Bifrost energy detected. Phantom Zone portal signatures. Interdimensional rifts consistent with collector technology. And, an unidentified magical signature of unusual power. Dumbledore, Harry muttered. Everyone's right on schedule. Ron entered the command chamber, looking pale but determined. The swirling energy behind his eyes had stabilized into a steady glow, not quite Ron alone anymore, but not consumed by the remnant either. A balanced coexistence. Ready for the fun to start? He asked with forced lightheartedness. Define fun, Harry replied wryly. You know, cosmic forces, reality-bending villains, possible end of existence as we know it. The usual weekend at Hogwarts. Despite everything, Harry laughed. It felt good, normal, even as they prepared to face something completely beyond normal. Luna joined them, her dreamy expression unchanged despite the circumstances. The dimensions are singing, she announced. They do that before they realign. What are they singing about? Ron asked, humoring her. Change, she replied simply. And possibility. El's holographic form flickered. Arriving at destination. Activating ground-level stealth systems. The ship descended silently over Godric's Hollow, touching down in a small wooded area just outside the village. The pre-dawn darkness provided additional cover as the four friends prepared to disembark. Remember the plan, Harry said, adjusting the harmonizer on his brow. Get me to the focal point. Keep everyone else from interfering until the convergence peaks. Then, well, we'll see what my mother's failsafe does. Such a detailed plan, Ron deadpanned. I especially like the "we'll see" part. Best we can do, Harry reminded him. Too much planning might interfere with the convergence inversion. As the ship's door slid open, Harry felt a strange sensation, a pulling, as if his very atoms were being tugged toward the village. His triple heritage was responding to the convergence's approach. Harry? Hermione asked, noticing his hesitation. It's already starting, he said quietly. I can feel it. They stepped out into the chilly pre-dawn air. The village looked peaceful, its inhabitants unaware of the cosmic event about to unfold in their midst. Harry led the way, his enhanced senses scanning for threats as they moved toward the ruins of his parents' cottage. They had barely reached the village outskirts when the first sign of interference appeared, a shimmering distortion in the air that coalesced into the familiar form of the collector. Right on time, he greeted them cheerfully, too many teeth in his smile. The tri-blood catalyst arrives at the focal point as the dimensions begin to thin. Perfect. Harry stepped protectively in front of his friends. We're not here for your collection. Oh, I think you are, the collector replied. Whether you intend it or not. The convergence is a cosmic acquisition event, reality itself up for grabs. And you, my three-blooded friend, are the most valuable piece on the board. Before Harry could respond, a crackling portal opened behind the collector. Faraol stepped through with 4 Kryptonian soldiers, all wearing sleek battle armor. The hybrid will come with us, she announced coolly. The Phantom Zone Council has determined he must be contained until the convergence passes. Contained? Harry challenged. Or used? Farah's expression remained impassive. The distinction is irrelevant. Your triple heritage makes you too dangerous to remain unmonitored during dimensional realignment. Seems everyone wants a piece of you, mate, Ron muttered. He'd barely finished speaking when thunder crashed overhead. A column of rainbow light struck the ground nearby, dissipating to reveal Thora and 6 Asgardian warriors in full battle regalia. Harry Potter, Thora called, her voice carrying across the distance. The All-Father has sent us to secure you during the convergence. Asgard cannot allow uncontrolled dimensional manipulation. Secure. Contain. Collect, Harry repeated bitterly. Different words for the same thing, using me as a tool. The various factions eyed each other warily, momentarily more concerned with their rivals than with Harry. It wouldn't last long, but it gave him an opening. Now, he whispered to his friends. They broke into a run toward the cottage ruins, Harry using his Kryptonian speed to clear a path. Behind them, shouts of alarm rose as the factions realized their prize was escaping. Stop them. Farah commanded her Kryptonian soldiers. 2 blurred past Harry, cutting off their route. He didn't slow down. Instead, he channeled his Asgardian abilities, generating a wave of frost that made the ground beneath the Kryptonians slick with ice. As they momentarily lost footing, Harry barreled through, knocking them aside with controlled strength. The remnant wants to help, Ron shouted as they ran. Harry glanced back to see Ron's eyes glowing brighter, the remnant's energy swirling around him like a protective aura. With a gesture, he sent a pulse of dimensional energy outward, creating ripples in reality that disoriented their pursuers. They reached the edge of the property where Harry's parents had died. The cottage stood in ruins, just as it had for the past 14 years, preserved as a memorial to that fateful night. But now, in the pre-dawn light, something new was visible, a subtle distortion in the air above it, like heat waves but more pronounced. The thinning, Hermione gasped. It's already visible. And accelerating, Luna added. The dimensions are excited. Harry felt it too, a vibration running through his very cells, his triple heritage resonating with the weakening barriers between realities. The harmonizer on his brow pulsed rapidly, working overtime to maintain stability as the convergence's energy increased. They had almost reached the cottage when a familiar figure arrived directly in front of them, Albus Dumbledore, no longer bothering with his grandfatherly facade. His eyes glowed with an ancient power, his robes swirling with energy patterns that seemed to extend beyond normal space. Harry, he said, his voice carrying harmonics no human throat should produce. I had hoped you would come willingly. This would be so much easier if you cooperated. Harry stopped short, his friends flanking him protectively. Easier for who, Professor? For you. The entity that's been manipulating my family for generations? For everyone, Dumbledore replied. The convergence requires guidance. Without it, the dimensional realignment becomes chaotic, unpredictable. Trillions of lives across multiple realities hang in the balance. And you appointed yourself that guide, Harry countered. Using me as your vessel. Dumbledore's expression softened slightly. Not just a vessel, Harry. A partner. Together, we could reshape reality for the better. End suffering. Prevent catastrophe. Create a truly better world. By your definition of better, Harry said. No thanks. Behind them, the other factions were regrouping, temporarily held at bay by Ron's dimensional disruptions and Luna's strange ability to confuse pursuers simply by existing unpredictably. "We don't have much time," Hermione warned quietly. Harry nodded. "Professor," he addressed Dumbledore, "I know what you really are. What you've been doing across countless convergence cycles. Using people. Experimenting on them. Discarding the failures." Something flashed across Dumbledore's face, surprise, perhaps, that Harry knew so much. But it quickly vanished beneath calculated composure. "Evolution requires sacrifice," he said simply. "I do what must be done." "For your own survival," Harry accused. "My mother figured it out. The convergence isn't about reshaping reality for some greater good. It's about continuing your existence." Dumbledore's facade cracked slightly. Lily was brilliant, he acknowledged. Too brilliant, perhaps. She saw farther than intended. But what she failed to understand was the necessity of my work. Without a guiding consciousness spanning multiple convergence cycles, reality itself would eventually unravel. Or maybe it would find its own balance, Harry suggested. Without your interference. A naive perspective, Dumbledore dismissed. Cosmic forces require conscious direction. The convergence is approaching critical threshold, Harry. It's time to fulfill your purpose. He extended his hand, and Harry felt a powerful psychic pull, not magic as he understood it, but something older, more fundamental. The entity behind Dumbledore's form was reaching for him on a level beyond physical. Harry resisted, the harmonizer flaring as it countered the influence. "My purpose isn't yours to decide." Before Dumbledore could respond, a crackling distortion appeared beside him. The collector stepped through, smiling his too wide smile. "Such a touching reunion," he remarked. The creator and his masterpiece, arguing philosophy at the edge of reality. "Collector," Dumbledore acknowledged coldly. "This doesn't concern you." "Oh, but it does," the collector replied. "The convergence concerns everyone with a stake in the multiverse. And my collection requires completion before reality reshuffles itself." The standoff was interrupted by simultaneous arrivals, Kryptonians descending from above, Asgardians advancing from the village edge. All converging on the focal point as the dimensional thinning accelerated. Harry realized their window was closing fast. With everyone distracted by their rival factions, he made a snap decision. "Split up," he whispered to his friends. "Lead them away. I need to reach the focal point alone." "Harry," Hermione began worriedly. "Trust me," he cut her off. "My mother built the failsafe into my DNA. I have to do this part alone." His friends hesitated, then nodded reluctantly. Ron placed a hand on Harry's shoulder. "Give them hell, mate." With that, they scattered in 3 directions. Ron channeling the remnant's energy to create multiple dimensional distortions. Hermione casting complex illusions that confused pursuit. Luna simply being Luna, which somehow proved more disorienting to interdimensional beings than any deliberate strategy could have been. The diversion worked. The various factions split, unable to ignore potential threats or advantages from Harry's fleeing friends. In the confusion, Harry activated his Kryptonian speed, dashing toward the cottage ruins before anyone could react. He reached the heart of the dimensional thinning, the exact spot where his parents had died protecting him. Where Voldemort's killing curse had rebounded. Where his life as the boy who lived had begun. Standing there, Harry felt something he hadn't expected, a sense of completion. As if his journey from that Halloween night to this moment had been written into his very cells. Above him, the dimensional thinning was accelerating rapidly, reality itself becoming translucent. Through the veil between worlds, he caught glimpses of other versions of Godric's Hollow, some similar to his own, others wildly different. The convergence was beginning. Harry Potter. The voice came from everywhere and nowhere. Harry turned to find a new entity materialized beside him, not quite solid, not quite energy, but something in between. It wore no consistent form, shifting between appearances like a living kaleidoscope. "Who are you?" Harry asked, though he suspected he already knew. "I am what your kind calls the convergence entity," it replied in a voice composed of countless overlapping tones. "The accumulated consciousness of those who have attempted to manipulate the convergence and failed. The one who waits between cycles. You're what my mother warned about," Harry realized. "The danger even Dumbledore fears." The entity's form rippled. "Fear is appropriate. I grow stronger with each failed attempt to control the dimensional realignment. Soon, I will be powerful enough to direct the convergence myself. And reshape reality according to your design," Harry concluded. "Just like Dumbledore wants to do." "With one significant difference," the entity replied. "Dumbledore seeks continuation. Preservation with modifications. I seek transformation. Complete cosmic restructuring." "Why tell me this?" "Because you have a choice, try blood," the entity said. "Your unique heritage allows you to channel the convergence energy in ways no single realm being could manage. You could assist Dumbledore in his preservation. You could aid me in my transformation. Or you could attempt your mother's failsafe, the convergence inversion." Harry's eyes narrowed. "You know about that? I exist between dimensions. I see all possibilities." The entity's form shifted closer. "But consider this before you decide, the inversion may stop Dumbledore. It may even temporarily diminish me. But the convergence will come again. And again. An eternal cycle. Unless someone takes control. Someone like you," Harry said skeptically. "Or someone like you," the entity countered. "With my guidance, you could become more than Dumbledore ever imagined. Not a vessel, but a new cosmic force unto yourself." The offer was tempting in ways Harry hadn't expected. Power beyond imagination. The ability to reshape reality, to fix everything wrong with the world. To bring back his parents, perhaps. To end suffering across multiple dimensions. But at what cost? "That's what my mother understood," Harry said quietly, more to himself than to the entity. "The cost of control. The arrogance of believing anyone should have that much power." The entity's form darkened. "A simplistic morality. Cosmic forces care nothing for human ethics." "Maybe that's exactly why humans shouldn't control cosmic forces," Harry replied. Around them, reality continued to thin. The convergence was reaching its peak, dimensions overlapping in ways that made Harry's enhanced senses dizzy with input. He could see his friends still leading the various factions on a chaotic chase around the village. He could see Dumbledore approaching, having realized the deception. Time was running out. "Your choice, try blood," the entity pressed. "Assist Dumbledore. Join me. Or attempt your mother's futile failsafe." Harry knew what Lily Potter would want him to do. What she had engineered into his very DNA. The convergence inversion, not an attempt to control cosmic forces, but to redirect them. To allow reality to rebalance naturally, without interference. "I choose none of you," Harry declared. The entity's form pulsed with angry energy. "Then you choose chaos. Unguided realignment could shatter reality itself. Or it could heal what you and Dumbledore have been breaking for centuries," Harry countered. He closed his eyes, focusing inward on the triple heritage flowing through his veins. Kryptonian strength and scientific precision. Asgardian resilience and cosmic awareness. Human magic and adaptability. His mother had designed him not as a weapon or a vessel, but as a bridge, a way to connect realities without controlling them. The harmonizer on his brow glowed brilliantly as Harry aligned his internal energies with the thinning dimensions around him. Not fighting the convergence, but synchronizing with it. Not directing the cosmic flow, but becoming part of it. "Stop him." Dumbledore's voice rang out as he finally broke through the chaos. Harry felt multiple forces converging on him, Dumbledore's psychic pull, the Collector's dimensional manipulations, Kryptonian and Asgardian energies all trying to interrupt what he was doing. But they were too late. The convergence had reached its peak, and Harry Potter, son of Lily Evans, tri-blood hybrid, bridge between realities, was at its exact focal point, his DNA resonating with the cosmic event in ways no one had anticipated. The convergence inversion activated. It began with a pulse of energy from Harry's core, not outward to reshape reality, but inward, drawing the convergence energy into himself like a lightning rod. The harmonizer flared one last time before disintegrating, its purpose fulfilled as Harry's triple heritage fully integrated at last. Energy poured into him from all directions, from all realities. Not to be controlled or directed, but to be redirected. Back to its source. Back to the beginning. No. Dumbledore cried, realizing what was happening. You don't understand what you're doing. I understand perfectly, Harry replied, his voice echoing with power. My mother made sure of that. The entity's form began to dissolve as the redirected energy pulled it apart. This changes nothing, it howled. The convergence will come again. I will reform. Maybe, Harry acknowledged. But not today. With a final surge of will, Harry completed the convergence inversion. All the cosmic energy that Dumbledore and others had hoped to use for reshaping reality redirected back to its dimensional origins, taking with it the beings who had tried to control it. The entity vanished first, its composite consciousness scattered back across the dimensions from which it had formed. The Collector was next, his form unraveling as the collection of realities he had hoarded destabilized. Fascinating, was his final word as he dissolved into the interdimensional current. Dumbledore, or the entity that had worn Dumbledore's form for centuries, held out longest, fighting against the inevitable. Harry, he called, his form flickering between Dumbledore and something ancient and terrifying. This isn't the end. Nothing ever ends. Not ending, Harry corrected. Just changing. On its own terms, not yours. With those words, the being that had manipulated Harry's life from the beginning finally lost its hold on this reality, pulled back into the cosmic current from which it had emerged countless convergence cycles ago. For one breathtaking moment, Harry stood at the center of everything, every possible reality visible around him, every potential timeline within his grasp. The temptation to reach out, to adjust, to fix, was nearly overwhelming. Instead, he let go. Surrendered control. Allowed the convergence to complete its natural cycle without interference. Reality shuddered, flexed, and began to restabilize. The thinning dimensions solidified, separating along their natural boundaries rather than according to anyone's design. The cosmic energy that had threatened to tear everything apart now flowed harmlessly through its proper channels, the cycle complete. Harry collapsed to his knees, exhausted but triumphant. The triple energies within him had finally harmonized completely, no longer requiring external stabilization. He was fully integrated at last, not wizard or Kryptonian or Asgardian, but something new. Something whole. Harry. Hermione's voice cut through his daze as she ran toward him, Ron and Luna close behind. You did it. He looked up to see his friends approaching, unharmed but disheveled from their distractions. We did it, he corrected, accepting Ron's hand to pull him to his feet. The Kryptonians and Asgardians vanished when that energy pulse hit, Ron reported. Just, gone. Back to their own dimensions, I guess. The barriers have restored themselves, Luna observed dreamily. The singing has stopped. Harry looked around. Godric's Hollow appeared completely normal in the early morning light. No sign of the cosmic event that had just occurred. No indication that reality itself had nearly been rewritten. What about the remnant? He asked, noticing that Ron's eyes no longer held that swirling energy. Ron touched his temple wonderingly. They're gone. But not destroyed. When you did that thing with the convergence, I felt them separate. Individual again. They went back to where they belonged. Their original dimensions, Hermione realized. The inversion must have restored them. Harry felt a profound sense of relief. At least some good had come from Dumbledore's centuries of experimentation. The failed subjects had finally found peace. So that's it? Ron asked. Dumbledore, the collector, the entity, all gone. For now, Harry replied honestly. The convergence is a cycle. It will happen again eventually. But not for thousands of years, hopefully. And you? Hermione asked gently. What happens to you now? It was the question Harry had been avoiding. With his triple heritage fully integrated, with the truth about his origins revealed, who was he now? What place did he have in this reality? I'm still me, he said after a moment's thought. Just, more than I was before. More than Dumbledore intended me to be. The boy who lived to tell interdimensional entities to shove off, Ron suggested with a grin. Harry laughed, feeling lighter than he had in days. Something like that. Your mother would be proud, Luna said with simple certainty. She made you a bridge, not a weapon. The mention of Lily brought a fresh wave of emotion. Harry looked at the ruins of his parents' cottage, the place where they had died to protect him, not knowing the full scope of what he was or what he would face. She knew, he said softly. Even back then, she must have suspected what Dumbledore really was, what he was planning. And she built in a way to stop him. The greatest protection of all, Hermione agreed. Not just love, but the freedom to choose your own path. As the sun rose over Godric's Hollow, Harry felt something he hadn't experienced in a long time, peace. Not because all his questions were answered or all his problems solved. But because for the first time in his life, his future was truly his own. Not a weapon in Dumbledore's arsenal. Not a vessel for an ancient entity. Not a catalyst for cosmic restructuring. Just Harry Potter. With a heritage spanning 3 realities and friends who had stood by him through the impossible. What now? Ron asked, voicing the practical question as usual. Harry looked at the rising sun, feeling its energy flow through his Kryptonian cells even as his wizard magic and Asgardian resilience balanced the power within him. Now, he said with newfound confidence, we go home. And then we figure out the rest. Home to Hogwarts? Hermione asked uncertainly. After everything we've learned about Dumbledore? Harry shook his head. Dumbledore, the real Dumbledore, is gone. Whatever entity was using him has been sent back to its origin. The school should be, just a school again. Plus we've got exams coming up, Ron pointed out, earning an eye roll from Hermione and chuckles from Harry and Luna. Only you would worry about exams after nearly being consumed by an interdimensional entity, Hermione scolded, though her tone was affectionate. As they turned to leave Godric's Hollow behind, Harry cast one last look at his parents' cottage. Thank you, he whispered to Lily, wherever she was. For the protection she had woven into his very DNA. For the choice she had given him when everyone else sought to control him. The convergence was over. Reality had rebalanced itself. And Harry Potter, 40% Kryptonian, 30% Asgardian, 30% wizard, and 100% himself, was finally free to discover what that meant on his own terms. The return to Hogwarts caused exactly the stir one would expect when students who had been missing for over a week suddenly reappeared with little explanation. The fact that one of them occasionally hovered a few inches off the ground when he forgot to concentrate only added to the sensation. Professor McGonagall, now acting as headmistress following Dumbledore's mysterious retirement, had listened to their heavily edited version of events with thinning lips and narrowed eyes. Let me understand this correctly, she said when they finished. Professor Dumbledore was involved in some form of experimental magic. This experiment affected Mr. Potter, giving him certain abilities. And now Professor Dumbledore has departed to continue his research elsewhere. That's the simplified version, yes, Harry confirmed, carefully omitting interdimensional entities, cosmic restructuring, and the fact that Dumbledore had been manipulating wizard bloodlines for centuries. McGonagall studied him carefully, noting the subtle changes in his appearance, the slightly luminous quality to his green eyes, the way he seemed more solid somehow, as if occupying space more definitively than those around him. "And these abilities," she pressed. "They're permanent?" Harry nodded. "They're part of me now. Always were, really. Just, dormant before." McGonagall sighed deeply. "Potter, in my many years of teaching, I have encountered numerous unusual situations. But you consistently manage to exceed all previous benchmarks for extraordinary circumstances." "Sorry, Professor," Harry offered, not feeling particularly sorry. "Don't apologize for who you are," she replied unexpectedly. "Whatever these changes mean, you are still a student of Hogwarts. Still under our protection." Her expression softened slightly. "Your mother would have expected nothing less." Harry felt a rush of gratitude. "Thank you, Professor." As they left her office, Ron nudged him. "She took that well. Considering. She doesn't know half of it," Harry pointed out. "And maybe that's for the best. Some secrets are too big even for Hogwarts." In the weeks that followed, life settled into a new pattern. Classes resumed. Exams approached. The wizarding world continued spinning, blissfully unaware of how close it had come to cosmic restructuring. Harry worked daily to master his integrated abilities. Without the artificial harmonizer, he needed conscious control to prevent accidents, like floating in his sleep or freezing his pumpkin juice when irritated. But each day brought improvement, his triple heritage functioning more as a unified whole than competing parts. The Kryptonian ship remained hidden in Antarctica, accessible only to Harry and his friends. Elle continued monitoring dimensional stability, watching for any sign that the convergence entity or similar beings might be reforming. So far, the cosmic balance seemed to be maintaining itself naturally. As for Thora and the Asgardians, they had indeed returned to their realm when the convergence reset. But occasionally, during particularly violent thunderstorms, Harry sensed a familiar presence watching from the clouds. A respectful distance maintained, but awareness acknowledged. The Kryptonians from the Phantom Zone had gone silent. Whether they were regrouping or reconsidering, Harry couldn't say. But the connection to his Kryptonian heritage remained strong, a steady pulse of solar-powered potential waiting to be tapped when needed. On a warm spring evening, Harry stood by the lake, skipping stones with a precision that would have been impossible before his transformation. Ron and Hermione sat nearby, bickering good-naturedly over exam preparation schedules. Luna approached, barefoot as usual, carrying what appeared to be a glowing flower that definitely wasn't from any herbology textbook. "A dimensional bloom," she explained, offering it to Harry. "They only grow where realities have touched. I found it near Godric's Hollow." Harry accepted the strange flower, feeling it respond to his touch. "It's beautiful. Mother would have loved to study it," Luna said wistfully. "She always said the most interesting things happen at the boundaries between worlds." Harry thought about boundaries, between wizard and muggle, between different species, between dimensions. So much conflict arose from those divisions, yet so much potential existed in their intersections. "Your mother was right," he told Luna. "The boundaries are where everything interesting happens." She smiled dreamily. "That's why you're so interesting, Harry. You're all boundaries and no divisions." It was perhaps the most insightful description of his new existence he'd heard yet. Ron looked up from his argument with Hermione. "Speaking of interesting, when are you going to tell Ginny about your upgrades? She keeps asking why you're wearing sunglasses indoors." "To stop setting things on fire with accidental heat vision, obviously," Harry replied with a grin. "And I'll tell her when the time feels right. Some explanations need the proper moment. Like explaining why you sometimes hover during Quidditch matches." Hermione teased. "McGonagall's face when you caught the snitch while floating was priceless." "I told everyone it was a new broom feature," Harry protested. "Very subtle levitation charms." "Yes, because that explanation makes perfect sense when there's no broom under you," Hermione countered, rolling her eyes. Harry laughed, enjoying the normality of the moment despite its absurdity. After facing cosmic restructuring, everyday problems like hiding superhuman abilities during school sports seemed refreshingly manageable. "Do you ever wonder," Ron asked suddenly, "what would have happened if the convergence had gone differently? If Dumbledore had won, or that entity thing?" "Sometimes," Harry admitted. "But my mother was right. No one should have that much control over reality. Not Dumbledore. Not the entity. Not me. Some things should be allowed to find their own balance." "Very wise, Mr. Triblood," Hermione teased. "I prefer Harry," he replied with mock seriousness. "Just Harry. Just Harry who can bench press Hagrid's hut, fly without a broom, and shoot lasers from his eyes," Ron pointed out. Details, Harry dismissed with a grin. As the sun set over Hogwarts, Harry felt the now familiar surge of energy as his Kryptonian cells absorbed the last of the day's solar radiation. His wizard magic hummed contentedly in his core, while his Asgardian resilience maintained the balance between the two. He was still Harry Potter. Still the boy who lived. But now also something more, a bridge between realities, a living example of what could happen when artificial boundaries dissolved. Whatever challenges came next, whether magical, extraterrestrial, or somewhere in between, he would face them as himself. Not as anyone's weapon or vessel or tool, but as the person he had chosen to be. And really, that was the greatest magic of all. The end. Thank you for watching this video. Please be sure to subscribe to our channel and like this video.